the Horror Hangout, a podcast where two bearded film fans watch the best and worst horror movies ever and talk about them. My name is Ben Errington, and I'm joined by regular co-host, Mr.
Andy Conduit Turner. Just the two of us today, Ben. It's always strange, isn't it?
It's always just something strange in the podcast world.
Neighborhood.
Who are you going to call? Yeah. Who are you going to call? Not Luke Condor, because he's not here, unfortunately.
You know what he is? You know what he is, Ben?
What's that?
Something poorly, isn't he?
I'm laughing, but obviously I don't find it funny that Luke Condor's poorly. I'm devastated that he's poorly, but yeah, he is poorly. Something's happened to him. He's been slimed, possibly.
Yeah, possibly slimed. He has some slime in his throat and doesn't have much of a voice. So that is the worst podcasting ailment that you can have.
Yeah.
Like, technically speaking, while medically more serious, if you've broken an arm, you can still podcast. But got a poorly voice, can't.
What about a leg?
Same. Yeah. Sitting down job. I'm sitting down right now.
Back?
Yeah, back could be fine. You could podcast lying down. Like, I think a lot of physical injuries, as long as you weren't in imminent danger.
Heart.
You'll do it. Yeah, your heart. Got to be careful that you need your heart to podcast.
Yeah, you kind of need your heart. If your heart's not in it, then what is the point in all of this shit?
Also, if it beating irregularly, it could really mess up the thing. You'd be like, yeah. But
jump scares in a podcast.
Yeah, get well soon, Luke, and your slimy throat.
Oh yeah, get well soon. I hope your voice comes back and you can start talking again. Usually can't shut him up, but yeah, we wish him well. He'll be back next week, I'm sure. But we're on the last episode of November, which I was kind of like taking stock of everything. I can't believe it's nearly December. I don't think we've even planned what we're going to be covering on the show for December. I'm sure we'll do that very soon.
Remember the start of December. That's what we'll be saying.
Remember the start of December. Well, Resident Evil Welcome to Raccoon City will be out. I don't know if we're going to make that for episode 1 of December, but maybe number 2.
Yeah, I think that's the only new horror thing that's out in December, right?
I think so. And they have been firing out like promo videos and TV spots, whatever they're called, and like little Easter egg videos, like all over the shop, like character sort of introductions.
Character profiles.
I've tried to just stop watching stuff now because I feel like I've seen a trailer. I've seen 2 trailers. That's kind of all I need. I don't want to see any more. We'll go into experiences, which is why I think with the film we're covering today, I watched the first trailer, possibly, maybe the second, but there was a final trailer, which
that you didn't watch.
Purposely avoided, yeah.
Is that the one now? Forgive me, I forget it was who told us. It was someone at our table at Thought Bubble the other week, because there was someone said, "Oh, have you seen the new trailer for it?" And we were like, "No."
Yeah, of course.
This bit when these, I mean, we'll say it for anyone who hasn't watched it. It's only been out a week or 2, so spoilers for anyone if you're trying to avoid everything.
Big spoilers for this film.
We're going to go into full spoilers anyway. So if you're going to watch it and you really care, pause now until you've seen it. But it happened to Ben and I. We were standing at our table at the comic convention, and a friendly person was talking to us. I forget who it was, just saying, "Oh, in the last trailer where the original Ghostbusters turn up," we're like, literally just drawing breath to say, "I've stopped watching trailers so nothing gets spoiled."
Yeah. I mean, I kind of assumed
that they would
that was going to happen in some way, shape, or form. But like, I guess for it to be confirmed, even minimally like that, is kind of frustrating, because I would have liked the moment it happened. It would have been more like, "Oh wow, amazing!" But I kind of knew it was coming. But yeah, there we go. But I'm not the kind of person who doesn't want to watch any trailers. I'm a big trailer fan. I like seeing those initial trailers, maybe a second trailer. But as soon as I start to feel like what way the marketing's going to go, it's going to start just including all the good stuff.
Yeah. I'd like to say I had a rule for it, but I don't think I do, because I watched very little beyond the first Candyman trailer, for example.
Yeah.
But then not moments before we got on this call to record, I watched the first 5 minutes of New Jurassic Park. So
yeah, so they're calling that. That's a lovely segue there, Mr. Andy Conduit Turner. That is in horror news, I was gonna bring this up just because I mean it's horror adjacent news, right? Because
dinosaurs are scary. If a dinosaur came into your house right now, put it to you that you'd be scared.
Depends which one. I'll probably be scared of all of them actually, even those little compies, they're little buggers, aren't they?
If a bit, like, even if one of the friendly planting ones, a Brachiosaurus, turned up in your living room now, my goodness, your plaster's going to be ruined.
A sneeze in your face.
Yeah.
Oh God, Jesus, God bless you. So yeah, they've released like an epic. I'm just reading this here. Who says if it's epic or not? A 5-minute opening prologue. So I mean, is this going to be in the movie? They're calling it a prologue. If that's the first 5 minutes of the movie.
Yeah, I'm guessing it's the opening scene or something.
Oh, okay. Have we had a trailer for this? Have I imagined that?
Has there been a trailer? I think there's been a teaser, and old Ian Malcolm himself was going through a little bit. We've seen a little bit of a taste, but I'm not sure how much of that is.
I can't remember what's going on. That's one good thing, I guess, is that I'm good at watching trailers and then kind of forgetting about them.
Yeah.
For a while, and then when I'm watching the movie, I'm like, oh yeah, that was in the trailer. It's all coming back to me now.
And
which
then
happened with today's film as well.
Have you been guilty of watching a few frames of the lizard possibly being kicked or not kicked by an invisible Spider-Man?
I mean, I feel like with the Spider-Man stuff, I'm all for seeing spoilers because I just want to see all the cool stuff. You know, I mean, we expect what's going to happen is going to happen, and we kind of understand. Again, with the original Ghostbusters turning up in this, we kind of expect this to happen. Everyone's going to be really pissed if not. But but at the same time, I just loved seeing like that trailer, for example, gave me goosebumps. As soon as I started hearing Green Goblin, his little narration part, I was like, oh yeah, that's good. I like it. So stuff like that, I'm not too bothered. I think it's usually with stuff where I have absolutely no idea what's going to happen. Like absolutely no idea.
Yeah. Like, yeah, I get you. Like if there are expectations, you aren't so fussed already. But if it's something that's a complete mystery.
But with the Spider-Man stuff, like I've been reading stories for years where it's like Alfred Molina linked to returning to Spider-Man. Jamie Foxx has been cast in Spider-Man. Willem Dafoe spotted. Do you know what I mean? There's all that stuff. So it's all the pieces are there. So seeing it in the trailer kind of just confirms a lot of this stuff.
I'm looking forward to seeing that movie. It's before Christmas, right?
Yeah, it's like mid-December. Who would be a character that hasn't been in any of the trailers that you would like to see pop up?
Like a totally new villain or a totally new character, you mean?
Maybe new, or maybe like someone who's been in the franchise already. I was thinking like the Russian dude, the Russian landlord dude from the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Okay. him and his daughter with the
cookies.
With the cookies and milk. If we're going really bold, see Gwen Stacy come back to life. See Emma Stone turn up. My goodness.
Yeah.
That'd be a crazy twist.
Because there is, I mean, I'm assuming you've seen the last trailer, yeah? The recent trailer. Yeah. There is a moment, and again, we're spoiling the trailer for Spider-Man No Way Home. There is a moment which mirrors Gwen Stacy's demise in The Amazing Spider-Man 2. So I read something.
It all.
I read something somewhere as well saying, imagine if in that moment that Tom Holland couldn't save her, but Andrew Garfield could. Redemption.
So I've done this before. Practice.
Yeah, practiced. And I shot a little web out. And do you remember the web had a tiny little hand?
Yeah. Come on. Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah, shoot it a bit quicker this time. But yeah. I'm looking forward to it. It should be really good.
Yeah, I am looking forward to it. It's always good to know that there's still a few more big movies to arrive before the end of the year that we're looking forward to. So yeah,
we've had quite. Nice. It feels like after, I think I said a couple of weeks ago, it felt like we reached critical mass where everything that had been held for as long as anyone could hold it anymore, and then it all just.
Can you give me a metaphor of any sort?
The whole film industry blew its beans all over our cinema screens. And,
oh God, give me a chance. At least give me a tissue before you give me another one.
Yeah, and we were in a right sticky old mess trying to get a chance to see everything. And I think, sadly, films that aren't quite the size of a James Bond or a Ghostbusters, things that are still very good. I think we both enjoyed Last Night in Soho quite a lot, but from what I heard of box office after the first couple of weeks, it hadn't done incredibly well. And I know that I even struggled to get to see it at the cinema because the timings available to go and see it were just god awful. It was like during the working day in the week, and I think I managed to go at 11 o'clock on a Sunday morning or something like that in the end, which is a shame because I think just after the Halloween rush of spooky films, normally early November, probably something like that probably would have been the main film that a lot of people had gone to see, but there have been so many other things that have been delayed for so long out at the same time. Still not got around to Venom yet either, but there have to be sacrifices, I guess, or the Eternals.
No, I haven't seen that yet. On that note, have you heard Ridley Scott flapping his gums this week?
Oh, you find is it one of these things, like, is it just a thing that when a big legacy name director has a film out, I'm not sure whether they actually go out to say those things or it's a bit of a cynical press trick because basically it gets an awful lot of eyes on that thing, whether it's people going, no, fuck you. Tell you what, mate, I put it to you, you're boring.
Yeah. I mean, it's just it is a generational thing. Like, you can't expect many of these sort of like directors who are literally 80 years old, like him, Martin Scorsese, to really, like, obviously there's auteurs and they're amazing filmmakers, but at the same time I can totally understand why they might be annoyed at streaming or Marvel movies or stuff. Like, I mean, I love all that stuff, but I can understand why filmmakers of that ilk might feel a bit frustrated. So what he basically was saying was that his movie The Last Duel was a bit of a box office failure, and he says it boils down to audience brought up on these goddamn cell phones. He used the F word, very rude.
Rude.
And he's saying about millennials and not ever wanting to talk anything unless you talk on a cell phone. Not entirely true. I'll be taught many things on various size screens at any time.
It's not like an old person to make a sweeping generalization. It actually is. Got him.
It actually is. Oh, you fell for that. Hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah.
I think The Last Duel opened alongside some very big films, right? So I think it opened around about the same time as, I want to say Bond. I want to say maybe a Marvel. I don't know. Maybe Shang-Chi, possibly.
Yeah, and Shang-Chi was huge. Like,
but him saying that, like, a movie like, so The Last Duel, which is a period piece,
looks great.
Does look great, but for something like The Green Knight did really well, both critically. I don't know about box office wise, but it did well critically. I'm sure it made a nice amount of money. The fact that, I mean, those films are like cut from similar cloth, even though the first movie we mentioned, Last Duel, isn't so much fantasy based, but still, like, I don't know. It seems like it just makes you look like a bitter bloke. And I love Ridley. He's directed some of my favorite films ever.
I think there are things that aren't his fault as a film creator as to why his film has done well or not well in the box office. There are so many factors about everything that's going around on the business side of the film industry right now. But I don't think the problem is of the audience or of any other films. Like, it's not Marvel films' fault if your film didn't do well at the box office, and it's certainly not the fact that whether people get their information from their phones, their phone's fault either. Like, it's
your phone, where you can get any piece of information ever in the world directly onto your eyes within seconds.
Yeah.
What a world to live in. Can you imagine if that was the thing when you were a kid? Like, if you could literally do that, if you could literally go on YouTube and go, I want to watch every Stone Cold Steve Austin match.
You can just do. The fact is as well, though, like, I'm pretty sure if I think back to the past, people used to read the newspaper and stuff all the time. Their eyes, it's the same thing. People just absorbed information in a different way. Like, I think you could argue that with a film like that not doing well, there are marketing issues, there are timing issues, there are all kinds of things that are a factor to it. But at the end of the day, if your film has failed to find an audience and you feel it's underperformed as a film creator, not because of anything else, like at the end of the day, as a director, if you're check cleared, you're a legendary creator, no one's going to not give Ridley Scott another film to make anymore. Your name will carry you through having a film that underperforms at the box office.
Yeah.
Like, or you know what, you probably got millions and millions of dollars. If it's not for you anymore, retire.
Perhaps it is like a marketing issue as well, because I think I saw one trailer for it in the cinema, and that was the first time I'd even heard of that film. And I would consider myself to be someone who follows a lot of different studios and actors and stuff on social media, looks at various film news websites a lot. And for that to be the first I'd heard of the movie, I mean, who's to say? A marketing issue of some sort, but also I guess my fault.
But it's either way, it's not the audience's fault. It's like that, it's the Skinner thing. No, it is the children who are wrong.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the meme. That's exactly the meme I thought of, and exactly the meme I saw. So yeah, so basically what we were saying is Jurassic World Dominion has a 5-minute long prologue, where a T-Rex is essentially in a drive-in movie theater, not there to watch a film there.
No, don't drive.
Tiny arms.
Yeah,
that's so the only reason.
She just walks in and chased by a helicopter.
I enjoyed the change from he to she on the T-Rex. That shows your Jurassic Park knowledge.
Yeah,
is
all the
roof.
All the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park are female.
Exactly.
But they can change, so it doesn't matter because of that frog DNA. So could be. I suppose we should use a neutral pronoun for all the dinosaurs. They.
Yeah. They walked into the old drive-in movie theater. Okay. Other bits of news we got. So there's a English language remake of Train to Busan being made, right? Did you know this? I think you knew this.
I didn't know this. They're making an English language. Is it still a Train to Busan? Is it a train to Peckham Rye?
It officially has a title now. So I'll tell you the director is first, because this is an interesting choice of director, which makes me kind of think, oh, okay, I am interested. So it's Timo Tjahjanto, who directed The Night Comes For Us, Made a Devil Take You, and that lovely section in VHS 94.
The Robots one?
The Robots, yes. So, and it has been titled. So initially I saw the title and I went, eesh. But then I saw who the director was attached to it. And I also saw an artist on Twitter, make like a fan poster. Well, make like a poster concept, sorry, not necessarily a fan poster, of the movie, which is called Last Train to New York.
Okay.
So that title alone didn't fill me with joy. I don't know why. I was a bit like, what? But now with all this extra information, I'm a bit like, okay, let's see what happens. Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Zombies on a train.
Yeah, I'll give it a go. It's one of those things. Like, I would say with films like that, a remake after such a short time as well. Whatever you feel was in the past, I would say they are decreasingly necessary now that with the likes of Netflix and other streaming services. I think world cinema and things from non-English language films are not the niche, get it on special order on DVD 5 years after it came out that it used to be. And not even the greatest distance ago, like when I was at uni, like I remember reading about Battle Royale and Empire and then scouring DVD places until I could find a copy of it, and it wasn't for another 6 months that I found a copy anywhere.
What was it? Was it Tartan Asia?
Tartan Asia Extreme, yeah. Got the audition.
I think I got that. I think that's where I first saw things like Hard Boiled and all of like the Old Boys, Lady Vengeance, Sympathy for Mr. Vengeance, all that stuff was Tartan.
Yeah, all of those were from Tartan Asia Extreme. We don't need Tartan Asia Extreme anymore now. Literally, the biggest thing on Netflix ever is a Korean series. Like it's.
And it shows that it's not just a one-off, because there's a new Korean series called Hellbound, which is apparently doing really well.
Watched the first episode of it today, Ben. Some big muscly Venom guys give people a thumping is what happens in that.
Right, that's it. And they like
they come in like the police in like a Benny Hill, like oi 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 oi, and they come in and they just if they've told you they're going to get you.
Are they like debt collectors?
They are.
Right.
It is like a WWE like run-in on the ring. Basically, there's in the opening scenes. There's a chap sitting in a cafe, and it's a bit like the spoilers for the first episode, and I've got no context for it. So spoilers for the actions of the first episode of Hellbound, everyone. But it's a bit like that film I talked about a couple of weeks ago called Countdown, where you've got something where you've been told when you're going to die, except it isn't an app on your phone. A big god face appears to you and says, "You, mate, are going to die at 5 o'clock on Thursday." And then
I've got things to do.
Well, you got to do them before 5 o'clock on Thursday, because when that time rolls around, then it shows there's a guy in a cafe. He's looking a bit stressed as the time ticks over. And then there's a bit of a breath because it's like, oh, time's ticked over and I've not died. But what happens then is big, sinewy, venomy men that look like gorillas.
What are they called? Have they got names?
I don't know. They haven't got names that I've said, but they look like big burly venom gorillas burst in. And everyone can see them. They're not like, well, I guess they're ghosties because they're a bit smoky as well. But everyone can just see them, and they just rock up and they thump you to death. And they do like Dragon Ball Z, like anime fighting, where they like grab you by the face with a big hand and then push you along a bus. And then they absolutely like crater you into the floor, and they just stand over you, thump you, and then burn you into a skeleton and take you to hell.
They take you to hell. Okay, that's the Hellbound part. Sure.
Yeah, said they go, you Hellbound, and they send you off.
You're really Hellbound, you were.
In the first episode, the police are investigating it. There is a guy who is kind of like he leads a cult, but he's just dead nice about it and says, I don't run a cult, I'm just nice. And people go, do you want my seat on the train? He goes, no thanks, that's all right. And he goes, see, don't take advantage of people. Didn't even want the seat off that woman on the train.
And my legs are absolutely killing me as well. So
yeah, I've been on my feet all day. You saw me give a speech just now. So I'm going to stick with it. I've watched the first episode. I don't know what's driving those folks to come and thump people. But I'm here for some more of it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem as interesting a concept as some other things, but at the same time, if I hear more good things about it, I'll probably will check it out.
I haven't got enough for a verdict yet, but watch the opening scene and see what you think. Same for the folks on the socials. Let us know what you think of Hell Thumpers. Should we stick with it?
Hell Thumpers.
Hell Thumpers.
I mean, that sounds like a better name, right?
Oh yeah.
I'd definitely watch that more so than Hellbound. If you just give me titles of two things.
You got to watch out though, because they do absolutely deck you. Yeah. Thump you to custard.
Thump you to absolute porridge. I mean, that might not be a saying. So apart from that, the only other piece of news that I saw, which is basically just what I'm going to add to my Christmas list, I think, is that there's a book coming out called The Art of Goosebumps. It's a book which is like a coffee table book which spotlights all the original Goosebumps book covers in all of their lovely glory with no text on them at all, just like the original paintings. Sounds absolutely delightful. I'm definitely going to try and get my hands on that.
Yeah,
and that is being released on the 30th of November. I think there's so many of those images from the Goosebumps books that have stuck with me for so long. What some of them I haven't even looked at for so many years, and I'm looking.
I can still picture the mask one.
God, yeah, holding up the haunted mask.
Yeah.
On the cover, it's got like "Welcome to Horrorland." There's like a werewolf. There's a blob with a long tongue. Obviously, the dummy. What was his name?
Slappy.
That's it. That's it. But yeah, I might get that. I was thinking recently about maybe going back and buying some like old Goosebumps books, but then
we should do it. And then
just for the collection.
No, I'm always throwing this out, Ben, but we should do a bonus episode where we will chat about an episode of Goosebumps, or Are You Afraid of the Dark, or Are You Afraid of the Dark?
Yeah, that would be good. I'd definitely be up for that. I would
We'll
like
watch
to really.
we'll watch the Ryan Gosling episode of Goosebumps.
Oh yeah, of course. I remember that. I remember trying to watch Goosebumps when it was on Netflix. I don't know if it is anymore, and thinking, yeah, I probably can't watch this. It's not. It didn't age so well. Maybe because as a kid it's a bit creepy, but this I was a bit like, oh god. I mean, the theme tune is absolutely banging though. You can't argue with that.
Do you like the bit when the dog's on the screen, he gets spooky eyes, and then the dogs go?
Oh yeah, yeah. That's about the best bit.
I've woke my dog
Spooky
up
eyes
by
dogs.
doing that. Obviously, it was a very good dog impression.
It was a good dog impression. I wonder what you actually said. Goosebumps, 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 goosebumps.
Yeah, it's like Goosebumps is on. Jeez, I haven't seen that for proper time.
I haven't seen that for absolutely ages. Okay, so that is that in terms of horror news. Have you got anything you wanted to talk about that you've seen this week? Oh, we've talked Hellbound.
We've talked Hell Thumpers. Other than that, I think I already mentioned it. Stop me if you've heard this one before, Ben. I told you I watched Maniac Cop 2 not long ago. I went back to that and that series.
Did you tell me that? I can't remember.
Maybe I just texted you guys when I was watching it. But yeah, I watched the second Maniac Cop. Despite the fact, and spoilers, we lose the main characters from the first one about a third of the way in.
Oh, what, they die or?
Yeah, they get maniacs.
Yeah,
but I think it might be a better movie.
Oh,
it feels a lot more fun seeing what happens to Matt Cardle.
Is it the same dude playing him? The chin, not Bruce Campbell, but the other chin.
Yeah, the actual Maniac Cop. I think he's the same guy, and it follows on literally from the very end of the first one.
Oh yeah, I love that.
It's worth watching, you know. Like, I think it picks up for the story, and it's made me like the first one more.
Yeah, that's good.
And it actually has a proper resolution. Like it comes full circle. I liked Maniac Cop 2, and then what else have I watched? I've been trying to get through a bit of a backlog. You know, I did. I finished Halloween's. I've done all the Halloweens, and you know, I got to do even all the Robert Zombie ones. We're going to do a little bonus chat about that. But then I also watched both parts of the Batman animated, The Long Halloween.
Ah, yeah. I saw that a little while ago.
What do you reckon? It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, I thought it was all right. It was good. I mean, the comic is like up there with one of the best sort of Batman graphic novels. And I think it did its best to include as much as possible from it. It's kind of like a who's who of the Rogues Gallery as well, and everyone seems to get a little bit of a go.
Yeah, I liked it well enough. I think there are animated, the WB animated ones. I think there are ones that are more compelling. I'm not sure that it has.
Yeah,
the iconic story. A lot more of it, I think, is in the telling and the thinking of it. And I like the kind of murder mystery elements of it. I'm not sure it has levels of action that necessarily needed to be done in an animated sense. But bearing in mind someone has bothered to make it, I enjoyed watching it well enough. It was good.
Yeah. There was an Injustice animated movie as well, isn't there?
Yeah, I haven't seen that one yet. I've got a couple of the other ones. I was going to maybe use this as a springboard to do a couple I haven't seen. There's an Assault on Arkham that I wanted to watch, which has got Suicide Squad in it.
I'm pretty sure I've seen that. Pretty sure I've seen that a few years ago.
I really enjoyed, this is a long time ago, Superman Doomsday back in the day is all right. But a few of them can really hold a candle to just the old Justice League series is very good.
Oh yeah, the Flashpoint animated film was all right as well.
I have seen that one. Yeah, it's all right. They do good stuff.
They're all like enjoyable to a degree. Not quite as good as the comics they're usually based on. And not like they didn't blow you away, but they're like, oh, that's a faithful enough retelling of that.
Yeah, and they're nicely animated. They look nice. It's good to sit and wash them over.
The animated like Dark Knight Returns and the Dark Knight Strikes Again. Say Strikes Back.
Strikes Back or again, one or the other.
It's one or the other. They were pretty good as well, but I feel like sometimes the art on the pages is so distinctive that kind of just giving it that standard DC animated look doesn't always do it justice. It doesn't always quite work. There's something about it, but yeah. Is that it? What you see?
Yeah, I think so. How about you? You seen anything else?
The only thing I've really seen worth note, because I've just been watching any old crap on Netflix, it seems, this week. It's been one of those weeks where I've just been like, I'll just put this on. So I've been watching Tiger King series 2.
Oh yeah, he's back, isn't he?
He's back, yeah. But there's not really much to say about that. It's just more of the same. But movie-wise, I saw Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin.
Oh yes. And what do you think of that?
Now, I'm not very familiar with the franchise Paranormal Activity. I've definitely seen the first one, and I think I may have seen the second one, but I don't remember anything about it. So I've got no real connection to the series. I've got really no like or dislike of it. But this movie feels like something else entirely. It doesn't feel quite like, if you put another title to it, it would probably just work well as that. The fact it's got Paranormal Activity attached to it doesn't really mean much, apart from the fact it is essentially found footage, but there's no setting cameras up to capture paranormal stuff. And in terms of paranormal stuff, it's there's no point spoiling it, but it's pretty standard. It's watchable. There are a few lazy jump scares, but I quite like the finale. Like the last sort of 20 minutes was all right. I got along with this far more, and this is what, reading the reviews, a lot of people hated this film, but the fact that it was just about the same level of well received as the Deep House, which I mentioned last week. Like, these are worlds apart, really, really worlds apart, and the reason they're worlds apart is just because of the lead performances. Like, the lead, if you had the lead two actors essentially in Paranormal Activity: Next of Kin, if you had them in the Deep House, it would have been a far better film. It just shows you how far a really basic plot can go.
Performance can go. Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't know if I was impressed, but I was not bored, if that makes sense. Right. I wasn't bored.
I'm going to give that a go. I think I like Paranormal Activity well enough for what they are. I think in every Paranormal Activity, there is something that is effective. It might not be enough to carry a movie for everyone, but in all of them, there has been something. They did very well with the creepy, long-standing effects and the use of shadows and when things are obscured in the first one, even though the boyfriend character is terrible and probably deserves to be thrown across a room.
Is that the first one, yeah?
Yeah, the second one the one that's set in the 80s, and they have an orgy of evidence that it's the 80s, including a liberal use of a Teddy Ruxpin.
I honestly,
that's either 2 or 4. I think number 3 is the one where they use the Xbox Kinect can detect ghosts. That's always useful to know. Nice. You've got one of those. Nice. But yeah, they're a good enough series. No, only a minor point in terms of connective tissue between them is famous demon Toby in this one. Ben,
is that a free Toad guy?
Does Toby make an appearance in this?
No. It's kind of completely different, I would say.
So it's the next of kin from Toby as well, then, as well as
yeah,
it's characters. Yeah. I'm gonna give it a go.
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much had no interest in it, but then it kind of popped up, and I was a bit like, hang on a minute, okay, let's have a little look. Let's have a look-see. All right. But apart from that, that is pretty much all I've seen this week, because it's just been one of those weeks again where life is just drifting.
It's a busy season, isn't it? We've got work to finish. We're getting towards Christmas, so there's lots of people to visit that you only see once a year. All that gubbins.
All the bloody gubbins. And also, we want to get to the cinema to watch the latest release, which is the film of the week. That is the part of this podcast, right? I feel like I was just about to. It is. Have I missed a complete section of the podcast where we're like, hang on a minute?
No.
What about we talk about our favorite meal that we've had this week?
No, we get letters about those, but yeah, we'll. Film of the week.
Film of the week is finally. We've been waiting for ages for this, haven't we? It is Ghostbusters Afterlife. Is a 2021 American supernatural comedy film directed by Jason Reitman, son of Ivan Reitman, which is very key to this. The film stars Carrie Coon, Finn Wolfhard, McKenna Grace, and Paul Rudd. And then there's some spoilers in this description. I know we're going to spoil it anyway, but it's the sequel to Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2, both directed by Reitman's father, Ivan, and the fourth film overall in the Ghostbusters franchise. The plot: when a single mum and her two kids arrive in a small town, they begin to discover their connection to the original Ghostbusters and the secret legacy their grandfather left behind. Well. Very nice. Is this essentially vetoing 2016 Ghostbusters? I mean, it is, isn't it? Because Ghostbusters don't exist in 2016 Ghostbusters, if that makes sense. The 1984 Ghostbusters don't exist in the 2016 Ghostbusters.
That's right. Yeah. So I think it just ignores that one happens. And I know that there's a lot of opinions about the 2016 Ghostbusters. Before we get into this week's film, give you my hot take on the 2016 Ghostbusters, Ben. It's fine. It doesn't matter. Like, it's just a fun film that happened. Maybe some people didn't like it. I wasn't bothered by it. I don't need to see it again. But when I sat down at the cinema to watch it,
I always say the same few things when I discuss that film. The thing is, multiverses are all the rage right now. So even though this version vetoes that, if we're gonna split the multiverse in some sort of ghosty spirit world thing, and the four of them walk through, then whatever. Isn't it? I really like in the movie. I really like Leslie Jones. I thought she was great. In the Ghostbusters movie, she made me laugh. The things I always say about it was that the comedy felt slapstick, and I always felt that the comedy in Ghostbusters was very dry.
Yeah,
and that was something that the ghosts looked a bit like they were from Scooby-Doo.
Yeah, and that's true.
I didn't like Chris Hemsworth's character either, because I'm all for having a ditzy, silly character, but he was so stupid. I was like, people like that don't exist. I'm sorry.
I don't know, Ben, have you been out? Because no one's been out recently.
Well,
yeah,
that was kind of it. Apart from that, I was fine with it and the existence of it. I mean, yeah, sure.
Yeah. I had enough fun with it. I think if I'm trying to do any type of critical review, I think it ran out of steam for the ending. I'm not sure they knew how to finish it, and the ending is a classic big blue light in the sky.
The problem is, it's the fandom, the gatekeeping of these franchises is very silly, because most of the time I think, are they even like really fans of the films, or are they just fans of? They're like gatekeepers of nostalgia, people who tend to get angry about these things.
And I think partially, in many ways, like, there'll be some that feel similarly, although probably maybe not to quite such an extreme way about this take on it. I think that the reality is that the past is a foreign country, Ben. You can't live there, and also it's gone. It's over. Those things,
mate.
It's gone. The past,
it's been wiped off the face of the earth.
The past is gone. And the reality is that if you wanted a third Ghostbusters film that is set 25 minutes after the end of Ghostbusters 2, with all of those guys still in their youthful prime, and a pint of milk was still 6D or whatever it was back then, like, you can't have it. It doesn't exist.
You say that, but you have to experience it in video game form. That's pretty much it.
That's fine. And the story of that video game is,
and it's
good.
Yeah, and it's 15 hours long instead of 2. So go and enjoy that. Yeah, and then come back, because it almost feels like, does the existence of this film and how it pans out, is it the way? I mean, it is pretty much the way it is because of the 2016 film, right? It's almost like we've gone, okay, there are certain things that we need to include that we didn't include in 2016 that are gonna be much more well received than that movie. Almost like a greatest hits of Ghostbusters in a way.
Yeah. I think this is to Ghostbusters what The Force Awakens was to Star Wars, right? Effectively speaking, it's a lot of the similar beats and the things that you like. There's those dog ghosts here, and there's a Gozer and there's some Marshmallow Men.
I feel like that's like the final act of the movie. The final third of the movie goes full Ghostbusters greatest hits. But the first two acts of the film, I think, are genuinely really quite good. It kind of like captures the vibe of Ghostbusters. It feels like one of those Amblin 1980s family movies, like an E.T. or something like that.
Yeah.
But not in a J.J. Abrams way, like how J.J. Abrams did it with Super 8 and stuff, where it felt a bit manufactured. It felt a bit like, okay, it looks like the cinematography has been designed here to make it look like one of those movies. I feel like it felt a bit more natural for me in this film. But then the final act, it does go full Ghostbusters greatest hits. And I think in my head, I'm thinking if 2016 Ghostbusters was like a cover song of the original Ghostbusters, that's what it feels. It's a cover, a tribute band, if you like. This feels like a genuine, like, okay, well, the tribute band have gone, and we come back, and this is the I don't know.
This is the reformed band with like the original lead singer. Like Slash has got together several other members of not Guns N' Roses to come back here.
Yeah, Buckethead, whoever that guy was in Guns N' Roses. So I guess in terms of like ratings of the film, what we got online at the moment is a 7.8 on IMDb, which is pretty high. Rotten Tomatoes, 63% critic score, 95% audience score. Audience are going wild for it, it seems. 3.4% on Letterboxd. Got a few choice reviews, and Luke started something that was quite fun last week, which was filling in the blanks of the choice reviews. So, Finn Wolfhard is what happens when you go shopping for Timothée Chalamet at...
it's going to depend on where this writer's from. Aldi.
It's close. Walmart. It's obviously an American film. I mean, Walmart is in the movie as well, So
yeah, Walmart is Asda as well, right? So I'm still not taking that as a win.
Okay. So that was Dakota Joaquin. Matt Singer says, it's astonishing how something can be so faithful to an old movie and miss its point entirely. It's the blank meme for 125 minutes.
That Leo pointing at the screen meme.
You got it in one. It's Leonardo DiCaprio pointing at a TV screen meme for 125 minutes, which, not for 125 minutes. For at least for the last half an hour, yes.
Yeah.
And a couple of times throughout the rest, but not the rest. Okay. And then Caitlin on Letterboxd says, I want to adopt every single one of those baby marshmallows. This film was so MF sweet. Y'all had me bawling by the end. Also, Paul Rudd is a
hot piece of ass, did she say?
Pretty much. She said DILF.
I thought we were going to say DILF. I didn't know if he had kids, though. I didn't want to assume.
No, didn't want to assume. I mean, in this film, he's definitely not got kids. His character, Gruby Gruberson.
Yeah, Gary Gruberson, yeah. I saw one of these reviews here from David, who says 1.5 stars. I'm giving Ghostbusters back to the fans, he says in a quote. And then he says underneath here, write script where one of the new Ghostbusters is called podcast. And I say to you, David, leave our precious patron saint of podcasting out of it in your shenanigans. I will hear not a word said about that boy and his fabulous hair.
Jesus. His hair looks like, like in a cartoon, or not necessarily even a cartoon, in a movie, when an explosion's happened and someone goes, whoa, that was an explosion. And they've got like soot on their face and their hair is usually like that. It looks like that's what his hair's like. But
I'm calling it like of all the films, if we do any type of awards at the end of the year, Ben, best hair in a movie, that kid has...
How did you feel about
How
did you feel about him being called Podcast?
No, I liked it. It's stupid, but like he made it of himself. Like it's fine.
It's very stupid. He's given himself that nickname. When people give themselves a nickname.
Yeah, Cobra.
Cobra and Viper,
of course.
All these guys.
Uncle Blade.
Uncle Blade. Yeah.
Yeah, I was fine with it being called podcast. It is fine, and also bearing in mind these people that are very precious about these things. People are 40 plus that are really worried about things. Probably do need podcasts explaining to you. No, that's fine. You're all right.
I need a What's a bloody what's this said? Bloody podcast. He's got one subscriber. We'll get to that.
Yeah. But
yes.
it was fine. And I actually, we'll come to the characters in a bit, but I thought everyone in it was very nice. And I like their moxie, like their energy they bring into it then.
Yeah, definitely. And also Mckenna Grace, who's essentially the lead, was great. And I think
she's brilliant.
Yeah, as far as I could tell, I mean, I might be making assumptions, but I think she's probably on the spectrum. And what I kind of enjoy about that is that she's on the spectrum and it's not a big deal. It's not sort of talked about as a big deal. We kind of made to understand that that is the kind of character she is. And also on paper, when you kind of say she's a kid, but she's so bloody smart that she'll be like, on paper, you might be like, oh, insufferable, but absolutely not. Delightful.
Yeah, she's still a charming character as well. I liked it. They didn't represent the, someone who has, somewhere on the autistic spectrum or what have you. It wasn't presented as it's like a superpower, or that it's that they are really obnoxious. It's that she recognizes that she has some difficulties in dealing with people, but it wasn't over the top, I felt.
There were just a couple of lines which kind of drove it home without making a big deal of it. And it was when she sort of explained that she processes emotions differently. And she also said that when she's overstimulated,
she finds it calming.
You find it, yeah, exactly. So just little bits like that where you understand like what kind of character she is and what kind of person she is, without it being, how Hollywood sometimes portrays that someone being on the autistic spectrum, which is usually in one of two ways, which is usually as you said, as having a superpower or them being quite obnoxious,
like the kid from the Predator.
I can't even remember the kid from the Predator. See, I think what I'm coming to understand is that I just push things out of my head.
He translates that Predator language with his superpower. And if we ever get round to covering Burning Bright, then we'll see a huge culprit.
Oh yeah. Oh god. I mean, I've not actually seen it, but I do want to see it.
Oh man, we'll get that on.
Okay.
But Mckenna Grace was really good. Who else have we got? We've got Paul Rudd, obviously, America's sweetheart.
Can you say a negative thing about Paul Rudd? There was definitely a part of this film where he wasn't in the movie, and I really noticed it.
You missed him.
I missed him, but I think the film missed him.
He was like the Poochie. Whenever he's not on screen, you should be asking, "Where's Gary?"
yeah, of course. Oh, love Poochie. But yeah, in terms of it seemed like he was filling the Rick Moranis. Well, he wasn't filling the Rick Moranis role. I'm just saying that because he was the gatekeeper. He was the gatekeeper, right? He became. Was it the
keymaster?
The keymaster, the gatekeeper. Don't quite work. So yeah, essentially, it is the family of Egon. So we're 32 years after Ghostbusters 2. Carrie Coon plays Callie Spengler. I mean, it's not straight up obvious that they're related to Egon initially.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got
Carrie. So you see that little girl's glasses, then you get.
And they're exactly the same. Finn Wolfhard's her son Trevor Spengler. Mckenna Grace is Phoebe Spengler. Paul Rudd is the teacher. Gary Gruberson. Logan Kim is podcaster, we've already mentioned, who's Phoebe's friend. Celeste O'Connor's Lucky Domingo. So essentially, if we're looking at who could be the next 4 Ghostbusters, yes, they're kids, but it looks like it's Trevor, Phoebe, podcast, and Lucky.
Yeah.
Which, let's do it. And obviously, without spoiling things, we're going to spoil it, obviously, but without dropping the shit right now, without jumping the shark right now, everyone who is anyone is also in it from the Ghostbusters. Well, from the main cast of Ghostbusters.
From the main cast, right?
Except Rick Moranis, because he hates being in anything, doesn't he? Purposely.
Isn't he coming back?
Is he?
Isn't Rick Moranis? Isn't Ryan Reynolds bringing him back? Something along those lines.
Oh.
Because, like, obviously Rick Moranis, he retired from acting because his wife tragically passed away, and he took the time out to raise his kids. Obviously,
I hope he didn't shrink them.
Because of the linear nature of time, his kids are grown up now. So I believe there's some interest in him coming back, and I think Ryan Reynolds had something to do with it. So we might see him return at some point. Okay. Maybe in the next Ghostbusters.
Oh, that would be nice.
But yeah, I think they made a smart choice here, and we'll come to it in the conclusions, I'm sure. But like, if you're setting up something which is intended to be the start of a new franchise, which you don't need that much cynicism on board to imagine that this is what they would like to do here. If this does well, they would like to make more of them. You're being very, very sensible by choosing people who are young now. The same way as it's wise to, when you cast Spider-Man, to cast someone who isn't already almost 30 when you start doing it, because then you can have several sequels out of them without them aging out of the roles.
Yeah, makes total sense, yeah. And also, there are some minor roles for some pretty big names. So J.K. Simmons is in it as well. He pops up. Olivia Wilde pops up as well. Initially, I was like, is that Olivia Wilde? Oh, I think it is.
Yeah. It was J.K. Simmons now.
Bokeem Woodbine as well, who plays the sheriff. We saw him most recently in Spider-Man Homecoming, I think, as Shocker.
See, the Shocker, yeah.
Well, there was like two of them trying to be the Shocker, weren't there, in that one?
And he's the one that is the Shocker second. The one that ends up as Shocker. And I also recognize him from, is he in Fargo, the second series of Fargo?
I've not seen the second series of Fargo, but everyone who's anyone is, but I can confirm he is in the second series of Fargo.
He's very good.
Yeah. I just had that information to hand, just in case.
Just get in my ear now. Sorry.
I just yeah. Luke Condor can confirm he's at home, but he's doing all the.
He's got no voice, but he's doing our tech for us. Yeah.
He's doing our tech and our research. Yeah. So that's that. So I guess we get.
So where do we begin? I guess before the inciting incident. So we see spooky sort of mountain vista, a car speeding away from it, getting rammed by an invisible force. And an unseen man. We never see a face, and it becomes obvious what it is. It's going to be Egon Spengler, who of course Harold Ramis is no longer with us, so he's portrayed primarily at this point in shadow and so on. We don't really see his face. So he's got a ghost trap with him. He's running away. There's something pursuing him. He gets it to his house and he looks to use some sort of machine in it, but it fails. It doesn't work. So he goes inside, sits in his lovely chair, and then just waits and gets got, I guess. And he passes away.
Yeah. Are we supposed to believe that it's just like, maybe he's been doing this for so long and it's finally failed? Maybe this has been a huge plan that's taken years and years and years to put together. It hasn't paid off. So he's like, well, now I can finally rest. And he gets got in the same way that, do you remember when the arms came out of the chair in the original Ghostbusters and grabbed Sigourney Weaver? In that way, which was, again, that was the first Leonardo DiCaprio meme pointing at the TV.
He gets got sadly, but that's all we see of him on screen. So if you were walking into this fresh and you had no prior knowledge of Ghostbusters, do you think that's anyone seeing this at this point, Ben, or is anyone who's seen this seen Ghostbusters in the past?
I mean, I guess like kids, because I took my daughter to see this, and I was pretty sure. Now, I feel like she's pulling my leg here because I said, oh yeah, like in the original Ghostbusters. And she said, I've not seen the original Ghostbusters. I'm like, I may have shown it to her when she was pretty young. so she doesn't remember. So she definitely needs her memory jogged a little bit. But yeah, I guess it's like kids, just because obviously these movies are coming out. They've got like a star of Stranger Things. It's kind of like Ghostbusters. I think everyone knows what Ghostbusters is, but maybe they've not seen the movie. I don't know.
I feel like there is a wealth of parents seeing this with kids for the first time and leaning over in the cinema and going, "Remember, this is the guy." Sorry, a bit of ASMR for you here.
Oh,
this is the guy that is that he was in the original Ghostbusters. Yeah, there's just a dearth of parents like explaining it to confused children. It's like the opposite of parents going to new Star Wars with their kids and going, yeah, that's explaining it forwards to them.
I explained a couple of things just because I was worried that Megan was a bit like worried. She gets a bit worried sometimes. She's like kind of a bit scared. I can tell because she's like grabbing onto me a little bit. So there was a moment where I just leant over and explained to her, they haven't been killed. I think they've been possessed. They'll turn up again. They'll turn up again in a minute, but they'll be possessed. And she was like, "By what?" And I was just kind of like explaining.
by those demon dogs,
By the demon dogs, mate. Yeah.
Like any classic demon dogs. Your nephew's there, and he kills kids. Freddy Krueger.
And he bloody kills kids. Can you believe it? Freddy Krueger. Yeah, he's a nonce, and he killed kids. Horrible. It does say here that when Egon struggles with the entity, he suffers a fatal heart attack. Was that? That was.
Oh, because he says that he died of natural causes, a heart attack. So maybe that's what happens. Maybe he, because obviously the monster is after him. Maybe it was trying to possess him, and he man on fired it. He Denzel Washington it, but like when that cartel's finally got him, and they go, right, Denzel Washington, you aren't the man on fire anymore. I'm going to kill you. But he goes, ha. I've chosen this moment to give up on life and die. And he just like goes,
lovely.
It's like, oh fuck, now we've got to now we don't get to kill you and we have to dispose of your body. Great.
Oh, damn it. He's like, and then he saws himself.
Dies like his fingers.
Because if you're Egon and you suffered a heart attack just because of a ghost, you'd be well annoyed because you've been dealing with ghosts your whole life. You'd be annoyed with yourself. You'd be like, "Oh, come on, you're not scared." It's just the stress of it all.
Famously, you have a song about not being afraid of any ghosts.
Exactly, yeah.
Maybe the ghost pointed out that he said, "You're not being afraid of no ghosts. It's a double negative. So you shouldn't be afraid of ghosts." Because, "Oh, you've got me."
You beat me. I did enjoy the essentially a field full of ghost traps.
Yeah.
That's a lot, isn't it? Like how many did they have in stock? The old Ghostbusters. Did he make them?
He taxed them all, didn't he? That's why.
See,
taken off with him.
Again, we'll get to this, but we're made to think that he stole everything. But something definitely happens where, we'll get to it. So it's around about this point we're introduced to the main characters, the family, which is Callie, which is Egon's estranged daughter, two children, Trevor and Phoebe. They're living in an apartment in, I don't know if it's New York, somewhere in the big city. And
in the big city,
classic, like they're going to get evicted. Callie can't afford rent. The landlord's a bit of a douche. Well, just wants his money, Danny, mate. Just wants his bloody money. So because Egon's died, he's left some stuff to Callie, including the farm, and some debt as well, right?
Yeah. So yes, they're like, unbeknownst to the kids at the time, they're not just going to go and pick these things up. They're going to have to go because they don't have the house to go back to anymore. They're being evicted.
I kept thinking,
notice when you packed a lot for this weekend alone. I mean,
yeah, you've packed literally everything. Also, did the kids take their whole rooms? Because if they didn't, you'd be like, no, I want to go back and get my collection of Pokemon cards. God damn it.
Pokemon cards now, that probably pay that rent.
Exactly. Come on, I've been collecting them for a reason. So yeah, they drive all the way to, so it's Somerville, Oklahoma, to the house where Egon had been residing, and it is kind of like a shithole. A lot of people in Somerville just call it the dirt farm.
Yeah, call him the dirt farmer, and he's got like some spooky Bible verses up on the wall.
Yeah, spray painted in nice yellow paint. That was very Alan Wake, wasn't it? The old yellow spray paint. I was like, oh yeah.
On the corrugated iron.
On the corrugated iron. I did the Leo pointing at the screen meme. So yeah, and here's where we get the first throwback character, the first, well, it's a very, very minor cameo, which is Janine, Annie Potts Janine. She turns up and says, he's left you this house. And this is the thing, she doesn't really say much to her in terms of, I guess, a big theme in this movie is reconciliation between someone who's passed away and someone that they essentially abandoned for reasons that they thought and actually wasn't quite the case. But Janine doesn't really do anything in this moment to try and ease her pain in any way. She kind of just goes, here's a shitty house, you left a load of debt, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah, I helped him out with a few things, trying to make sure he kept the roof over the head. But yeah, I'm just here for you to recognize me, and then I'll be off.
I'm literally just here for you to recognize me, and then I'll be off. She didn't even say any of the famous lines. Wake up, one! Didn't say that.
Yeah, didn't answer a phone at any point and say, all right, no, Ghostbusters.
No phones. And also, didn't Janine and Egon have a bit of a thing?
I think it was implied that they might get together, but then didn't she go on a date with Lewis as well? In the second one?
Yeah, she did. I can't honestly
been smooching him on the
You've been smooching with my brother. You've been smooching with everybody.
Yeah.
Rick Moranis, Harold Ramis, all of the guys.
Yeah.
Are we made to believe that she lives in Somerville, Oklahoma as well?
Or she just popping by because we don't really see her until the very end of the movie again now.
Yeah, I think
just a cameo, I guess, and it is meant to be Janine as well because of the connection to the old one. So, yeah,
exactly, which works a lot better than we won't mention the 2016 one much more, but when any of the old characters turned up in that, they were new characters.
Yeah, so they were truly cameo appearances of the actors in this one, whereas these, in this case, they're doing a lot of work to directly link this to the old ones. This is a continuation rather than a reimagining / reboot.
Which is difficult to do, I think. When you have to connect it to an old film, but also kind of explain this 25-year gap. We're supposed to believe that none of these characters have seen each other in all of these years, and that ghosts haven't been busted in all this time. But also, ghosts have in this world become a myth again. No one really believes in ghosts.
Yeah. They were ghosts in 1980s, and then they just stopped.
Yeah, and even some people think of it as a conspiracy, or not a conspiracy, but what am I thinking of? Like
an urban legend almost.
Urban legend,
or a hoax, or
even though there's stuff on the ghost pretty much took over the whole of Manhattan in the first movie, and pretty much in the second movie as well, right? There was definitely the Titanic turned back up, didn't it?
Yeah, the Titanic turned back up, and it mentions a marshmallow man that exploded all over all over on the streets. They don't seem to reference the events of the second one that much.
That annoys me, because I think, again, another thing in terms of the fandom of Ghostbusters, I think everyone fondly remembers the first one, and they're like, "Well, the second one was all right," but I love the second one.
I love Vigo, Scourge of Carpathia.
Both.
And I like the thing with the River of Slime too. But I think then, I always say this, I think the rules of these things should be, as filmmakers, if I was to set the tenements of filmmaking, if you want any of your old ones, if you want a reference to any of your old movies, you have to have all of them. So, if Halloween Kills wants to, and Halloween Ends wants to talk about the original being related to it, I'm sorry, but you've got to have Season of the Witch. You've got to have that he was in a cult and also fathered a daughter with his niece that time. You've got to have all the other stuff as well.
You can't just
have all of it or nothing of it. The same with Alien movies if they keep coming along. Sorry, Alien Resurrection happened, whether you like it or not.
Because there's footage on YouTube of people watching the Ghostbusters in New York,
walking down the street doing that pointing dance,
doing a pointing dance
in that ticker tape parade, slipping over Slimer, chasing him down the road,
covered in marshmallow fluff. Bloody lovely. Yeah, so it's kind of weird because if something happened on that grander scale, there'd be like documentaries about it, like when there's any sort of
if an actual Marshmallow Man, what I'm thinking, like, I don't think I'm alone in thinking that would be one of the most significant events in history.
Well, not just the Marshmallow Man, the bloody I've completely forgot about this. In the second one, the Statue of Liberty came to life.
And smashed the way into the museum.
Walked all the way down. It's such a ridiculous plan, isn't it? In the second one, we'll get her to walk along the streets of New York. Yeah, it wouldn't be an urban legend. Everyone would know. Everyone would go, where were you when you found out that ghosts existed? What's the first ghost you saw? I don't know.
And surely it'd be a matter of record, because in the second one, those like people that got the chair came back and like wrecked that courthouse.
Oh yeah, of course. But also this one, like they just stumble across a ghost like willy-nilly. Muncher. They just go, there's a noise in that building. Let's go in. There's a ghost in there. If that was how easy it was to spot one, you'd be spotting them all the time.
And Muncher is just our modern Slimer, right? Because he's a bit Slimer-esque. He's just got more arms.
Yeah, he's got more arms. I'd say he's a bit angrier. I think
he's
Slimer
cross and he shoots bullets at you.
Yeah. Slimer was always a bit playful with it, I think. He likes sliming Peter Venkman.
I think my big characterization of Slimer, though, comes from the animated one where he's just their mate.
Yeah. Classic. I think in the movies just eats a lot and slimes people. Is he in the second
Slimer
movie?
What are you eating this food for? Yeah, he's driving the bus. He drives Lewis to...
Oh, yeah. Nice one, Slimer.
Yeah, he's turned a corner in that one as well. Always eating that food, though. You're a ghost, mate. What you're doing is you're just ruining food.
You're just ruining food for everyone. Greedy bastard.
You can't eat it. You're just going to gunge it. It's going to fall through you onto the floor.
Disgusting.
What a little bastard. But anyway, so where were we? So the family have moved in. They're all looking around there. They stop at a burger joint, and Trevor sees a girl he fancies on a roller skating. She's like a roller skating waitress, and he goes to apply for a job while he's
got a lot of confidence. I feel like if I was that age and I saw someone I fancied, I would have just sat quietly in the car. And he literally goes in, applies for a job, and like starts asking her loads of questions.
Yeah, tries to be how are you really nice place. Yeah, like he's a little bit clumsy with it, but he is actually successfully talking to that girl he likes. Unlike me when I was 15, said, yeah, like you, Ben, said nothing about that. Thank you. I will just go along being unsatisfied with my life. Thank you very much.
He lies about his age to get a job as well.
Yeah.
There'll be background checks in these days. You couldn't just get it. You couldn't just do that. It'll never happen.
Yeah.
Trying it.
Do you want your national insurance number? No, I do have that. And that proves that I must be 18 because why else would I need it?
Why else would I have it, mate? So yeah, he gets a job, and then Phoebe gets enrolled in a summer science class at a local school, and her mentor, it says her mentor here, but initially comes across as a bit of an idiot, but grows to be her mentor. So he's an eccentric seismologist, Gary Gruberson, and he just puts on 80s horror movies for the class to watch, starting with Cujo. Great choice. We've covered that on the podcast, so
Yeah, definitely. And then later scene he puts on Child's Play. Have we done Child's Play of any description?
No. Oh my god, that's it. We've got it. That's got to be the first episode of December.
Yeah, Child's Play.
Too big a movie not to do. I can't believe we've not done it. 200 episodes in, no Child's Play. Crazy.
Yeah, we'll chuck Child's Play on the list then, shall we?
Check it on the list. So obviously when the TV gets wheeled into a class, no matter what country or age you are at, it is always a magical moment, right?
Yeah, proper supply teacher moment, right? When you get in there. Who's your favorite supply teacher at school, Ben? Did you have any regulars, or were they all one and dones?
I think pretty much one and dones. Yeah, actually, there was a Welsh supply teacher, a Welsh woman. She was always a supply teacher for science. She was nice. She always loved getting the TV out. sticking on some sort of science video.
We had a brilliant one called Mr. Fish, who looked a little bit like Mr. Davies, who was a regular teacher at the school, just like an old fellow.
Interesting.
And we all knew that Mr. Fish wasn't Mr. Davies, and in an unusual twist of fate, we gave the original teacher more shit than the supply teacher. Be like,
Oh God,
because Mr. Davies was primarily a PE teacher who used to sometimes cover some. And he used to do a lot of cover for the other lessons. So, like, your history teacher's out. Mr. Davies comes in and goes, "Oh, Mr. Fish." It's like, "No, I'm not Mr. Fish. I'm Mr. Davies." Like, Mr. Fish is another man who sometimes does supply teaching here at the school. Oh. You actually like Mr. Fish more, though? Is he not available?
Oh God, that must be the ultimate humiliation. If you're you like a supply teacher more than me, that's it. I quit.
Yeah. I mean, Mr. Fish was excellent. So there you go.
There we go. Wonderful.
But yeah, so he rolls in the TV, he puts the video on, he's not putting any effort in because he wants to go and do his experiments in the background. But Phoebe meets our new icon, our entire industry's figurehead, then.
Oh yeah.
Podcast.
The main man. Podcast. He calls himself podcast because he does a podcast. That'd be like one of us calling ourselves podcast, just in our day-to-day life. We'll let him off because he's a kid and he's got good hair. But if he wasn't a kid and had good hair, we'd be sincerely annoyed, I think.
I feel like at the age he is, it's acceptable to give yourself a nickname.
I mean, yeah, not many kids have got podcasts, right?
Yeah, because he's a proper little kid. I haven't got kids, Ben, so I struggle to understand how old they are. How old would you say podcast is?
Isn't he like? Aren't they both? I think him and Phoebe are both like 12. I think she's a bit taller than him. Sometimes that happens. The boys are little short asses. So yeah, so he's carrying around a microphone. He's carrying around like a recording device. He's pretty much.
I feel he has better equipment than us, man. He's got a little Zoom recorder and everything.
I'm gonna pick holes in this though, and don't feel angry at me for this. Is he even recording a podcast? It feels like all he ever really does is just record. He like narrates what's happening.
I think what podcast is probably doing here. I imagine he is like your real prestige. People like this is on if he's on the equivalent of like BBC Sounds, he's like an investigative journalist, like a Danny Robbins. He's recording that, and then he's putting a little intro in, he's cutting it together, he's putting musical stings between the little bits. Okay. I think he's just grabbing that audio and he's got heavily edited,
because his podcast is about like mysteries and conspiracies and various things like that, isn't it? So he's always all over. As soon as like the Ghostbusty stuff starts happening, he's all over it.
He does a mystery podcast. I've just thought though as well, Ben, like the marketing people all need to be fired if I can't search and find his podcast now.
100%. Yeah, I agree.
They should have at least done an episode.
Yeah, because it really finds its voice in the what episode?
40 episode. Yeah.
So to be fair though, it's made out that Phoebe's not really got any friends, and she never has had any friends. A pretty successful day for her because she makes friends with podcast, and I guess you could say makes friends with Mr. Gruberson as well.
Yeah,
because he's a seismologist. He's got a lot of interesting theories about some form of disturbance underground in Somerville, which him and Phoebe discussing it sounds like an explosion rather than an earthquake.
Yeah, because it can't be an earthquake because they're not on any lines. They're not on any fault lines or anything like that. So it's more resonant with what would be an explosion. It also can't be a volcano because there's none of them either. So it's more consistent with an explosion, but we don't know what it is that's causing it.
No.
Yeah.
Which is a mystery.
But then in the house, things are beginning to unfold, and we know that the mom in particular is quite happy because she hasn't got a lot of love for her dad because he had walked out and left them. a long time ago and has not really been involved in there, not really been involved with her in her life as she was growing up and kind of abandoned the family. Meanwhile, the kids begin to encounter bits and pieces, right? And apologies to anyone that's usually used to us going, I think we usually have, as a rule, we can stick to the flow of a movie quite well. But I think as we spoke about the other week, when something's new, harder for you to take notes in the cinema. Not like when we're going through an older film where literally you can get it blow by blow, right? But
yeah, and I mean a lot happens.
Yeah.
So, but I guess.
But each of the kids kind of gets a project, right? So Trevor has discovered the Ghostbusters car in the garage and is sort of quietly working to try and make it work by himself. And Phoebe starts having a blooming game of chess with a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, I know games of chess tend to take a while anyway, but this is the world's longest game of chess. You know what I mean? Like, move a piece, wait till tomorrow, move another piece, but then I guess it speeds up fairly quickly.
Yeah, she starts to play it, and we're quickly revealed, right, that it must be the friendly ghost. It's the ghost of a grandfather. The PKE meter that he left behind begins to react wherever he is, and it eventually leads her down to his like secret underground base, where she finds a lovely proton pack.
A lovely proton pack. I bet I sell for absolute loads on a
just as a film replica.
Just as a film replica on eBay. Like, people got to be going for that.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So she finds a proton pack and a trap. In odd order, the first thing I think they do is she shows the trap to Paul Rudd, Gary Gruberson, and he has an idea that they're going to open it, right, to see what's in there.
Yeah, exactly.
And what should be in there? But it's one of those. We see its face when they manage to let it out. It's one of those narky old dog ghosts from original Ghostbusters.
Yeah, I didn't kind of recognize it as being that initially. I was kind of just saw a big sort of smog of weird, but I guess it does kind of look like that now you think about it. I didn't.
It blows out all the windows.
Initial connection. Yeah, blows out all the bloody windows of the school buses. Who's going to pay for that? I think
taxpayer, Ben. Taxpayer.
Taxpayer, mate, I tell you that. So Gruberson says we better leave because I'm liable because I'm an adult. See you later. Let's run.
Yeah.
Podcast seems to love it. He's like,
he's heavenly.
Hell yeah, this is going to be a great episode of the podcast. And Phoebe, like, I think she screams and covers her ears, doesn't she?
Yeah. But yeah, this is one of the things that I like about this movie. Like, the people in it, these characters in particular, feels like Finn Wolfhard, Trevor, is a bit separate for the most part. But these characters in particular, when Gary, Phoebe, and Podcast are hanging around, they've got a nice dynamic, I think, a nice bit of chemistry.
Yeah, definitely. Considering it's like, kind of weird. Adult hanging out with two. Well, kind of weird on the surface. It's not weird. He's just a teacher, guys. He's just trying to teach these kids some good stuff, which he is. So he's essentially like an aspiring, like, Ghostbuster. He kind of knows a lot about them.
He's a big fan, right? He's like, what? You don't know who your granddad is, and like they did this thing, yeah.
And I think he even says to Podcast, I think of out of everybody, I've expected you to know.
Yeah. It's nice, and they've done this, and then he gives them a lift back home because he's had a little bit of encounter with their mom, right, with Callie, and he makes that as a reason to take the kids back. They're getting on like a blooming house on fire. The sparks flying.
Exactly. It's nice. I like it. I like the dynamic. It's good, and I think
they agree to go on a little date, which is nice. But sorry, you were saying.
Which is nice, yeah. I think she says it's not a date, doesn't she? She's like, it's not a date, we're just going for dinner. It's like, that's a bloody date, mate. Everybody knows it, all right? Everybody knows it. And I think from this point onwards, Callie's Callie as a character was given more to do, because initially I felt like she was just the mum and she was just kind of there and not really doing anything.
Yeah, she's going to be the mum character who is like just a passenger in it. Like at first, the first couple of beats with seeing the ghost and finding the trap, which I realized she finds under the floor before she finds the proton pack in a later scene.
Of course, yeah, of course.
So it's when she's like asleep at the table, drunk, isn't she? At the first, and it's like, okay, so you're going to be like an absentee character, effectively, but she comes into it a lot more.
Yeah, because her relationship with Egon is obviously difficult, but it's important. It's integral to a lot of the plot. So what a lot of the plot hinges on, I guess.
Yeah. So they're going to go on a date. This is when we find the next night. Phoebe finds the proton pack in the secret base, and her granddad helps her fix it. So the next day, and I think we see a ghost escape from the. I'm assuming this is the Chomper ghost that escapes from the mine right now, because it must have come from somewhere. It's not just there, isn't it?
I really don't know. I don't think there's really any genuine connection to that.
It just happens to be there, but it's okay, because whenever this Chomper turned up, he turned up the day after Phoebe manages to repair a proton pack. So we get a cool scene with Phoebe and Podcast having a blast on the proton pack, and this is fun. And you know what, Ben, I'm not a guns guy, but if these proton packs are real and you could have a go at one, I think it'd be very nice to hold it and to have a go at blasting it at things.
I mean, I was a bit, because it is essentially like a nuclear reactor on your back, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I'd be a bit worried about, getting obliterated, but still,
you got to die of something.
It's a good attitude to have, but dying proton pack explosion. It'd be good to die, I suppose, in that way, because you wouldn't leave anything behind. So funeral bill would be
one of the few circumstances where all of the cells in your body can die simultaneously.
Just get turned to dust, and then somebody snorts you.
Just get dusted. It's a bit like what happens to those people in Hellthump, as the recent series have just started. But
dusted to death.
Yeah. They have a go on the proton pack, and then immediately they sort of detect that there is something going on in like a nearby steel mill, that they're outside, like an old abandoned mill, and they
What I kind of like about this in this initial stage as well, not just this initial stage, but everyone seems to have a role to play in this essential new team that comes together, and everyone takes to it quite quickly. So obviously, Podcast is like the tech guy. He's got the PKE meter.
Yeah, and he seems to know how to use the traps, because he does a bit of trap sliding.
Yeah, he does a little bit of trap sliding. He controls. They've got like a little. This is a nice addition. There's a remote control car like trap, which gets used as well. Phoebe's like the main sort of gunslinger, essentially. Trevor's the driver. Obviously, we'll get to that as well. And Lucky is just there for a good time. She's just like, I guess, secondary gunslinger in this particular.
Yeah, and like she's definitely, she comes to sort of round out the group at the end, right? Because she's associated, because she's, as we learn after this bit, she's the sheriff's daughter.
Yeah, exactly.
So she knows she knows the town, she knows the people, she has she helps them get their equipment back a little later on. But for now, I guess it's quite an extensive action piece, right? Because we see Trevor gets the car working for the first time. Meanwhile, Phoebe and Podcast encounter the ghost.
He gets the car working with the help of Egon. With the help of spooky Egon, because he
twists a wire.
Twists a little wire. It's like, hang on a minute, come on, sort this out. Which is nice. He drives it around a cornfield.
Yeah, he's just driving it around the fields.
The fields.
Yeah, so he's going along. Meanwhile, the other two are encountering a ghost. And she does catch it in the beam, but it's really hard to slide the trap, and it escapes, right? And it flies off.
Yeah, exactly. He's little cheeky boy, isn't he, old Muncher? He's like sort of like hiding around corners and stuff. And so he likes eating metal and then firing it at people. I mean, if there was like a bullet firing ghost, you know, I don't think I want to live on this planet anymore.
Yeah.
Terrifying. Yeah. So they did they? Oh yeah. Did they randomly?
So they encounter Trevor. They get in the car, and then we have this chase scene, which I think is quite heavily in the trailers, right? Where they're basically absolutely trashing the town with a nuclear reactor. And
so I think, sorry, one moment we before this, Trevor had gone to the old mine shaft with the friends, seen something down there that come flying out.
I feel like that is Muncher getting out. Because otherwise, where does he come from?
Yeah. Sure. I mean that would make sense. I think that makes sense. So
they chase him through the town. He starts heading back towards the mountain, but they're able to. And this is the establishing, like everyone's ghost busting now. Busting makes them feel excellent,
and they're good at it.
Yeah,
they take to it like a fish to water. Considering it seems quite terrible. I mean, I'd be a bit terrified, I think, in any situation involving that gear and those ghosts. Now you say Muncher was heading back towards the mountain. It does make more sense that it would be him. Yeah.
So they catch him though, only to then get arrested because driving a car illegally, blasting up half the town with a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
They get taken in by the law.
Incredibly dangerous, right?
And it times just perfectly well when Callie is talking to Gary on their date, going, I just wish Phoebe would just get in trouble sometimes instead of being so good all the time. Doesn't
Muncher like fly through the restaurant that they're
flies through the date? Yeah. They get arrested. They learn that Lucky is the sheriff's daughter.
So they confiscate everything. They confiscate Ecto-1 and all the ghost busting gear. And then we do get a famous line delivered, but probably by not who you would expect, just a sheriff. So Phoebe says, does she get a phone call? And he says,
sure. Who are you going to call?
And
then loads of kids go, He-Man.
Oh, bloody Iron Man or something. He'll sort this out.
But she phones because when she was watching the Ghostbusters adverts, they have a 555 number, so she calls that, and it's good old Ray.
I mean, would it still work? Who knows? But it reaches Ray. He owns like a shop, like an occult shop. I think that's what he says, doesn't he?
Yeah.
This is a lot of heavy exposition that kind of, well, pretty much does fill in that blank.
Answer, hello, Ray's exposition. Ray speaking.
I mean, that's pretty much it. I can understand like a couple of little bits of it, but it does get to a point where I'm a bit like, this is a lot of information to kind of chuck into this one. Yeah.
It actually goes into like a bit like, it was good at first. We were getting this many calls, and then the calls died off. Before you know it, and it literally goes through about 10 years of history.
Yeah, well, even Phoebe must have been like, "Get on with it, Ray, for God's sake." Maybe you don't speak to many people. Yeah, come on.
But it doesn't go anywhere. She reveals to him that Egon has passed away, and it kind of takes the fire out of him because at first he's quite angry when he hears Egon's name.
Yeah.
It settles him down, and she points out that she needs help, but the sheriff ends the call because. He says, you've been on there for too long. Got bills to pay. That's the taxpayer.
This was enough of a moment where I knew exactly what that meant. Almost in a way. Do you remember in Jurassic Park 3 when Sam Neill calls... when Alan Grant calls Ellie Sattler and he's on the satellite phone, even though he's like underwater, and somehow she manages to realize exactly what's happening and
sounds like a Spinosaurus. He must be on this island.
I'll send the army to sort it out. It kind of felt like that. It was like, okay.
I hope that kid got punished because he could have killed Dr. Alan Grant just because he was getting distracted to watch Barney. What are you even doing touching the phone, kid? No one's calling you. You're
Hello,
3.
it's a dinosaur man.
Charlie,
Wow.
piece of work. Absolute piece of work,
Do,
Charlie.
do you remember how the tone, the noise of the satellite phone? Do you remember how it goes?
Exactly. Perfect recall.
That is exactly it. I mean, I was kind of there, but not quite. But that was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. We'll give you that. We'll give you that.
But yeah, Charlie's betrayal in another film aside, yeah, you're exactly right, Ben. This is it's obviously the inciting moment. I think if you didn't already have known from the trailer that the guys were going to turn up at some point, we know that this has got that into motion to make it a bit less of a Deus Ex Machina at the end, perhaps, because at least we've signposted it. Now they're Chekhov's Ghostbusters.
Chekhov's Ghostbusters. So he says that Egon stole the car, stole all the gear, moved to Somerville, and that was kind of the end of the Ghostbusters because the business wasn't great anyway, but now they've got no gear or the car or anything like that. So there we go.
Yeah, and does he also at this point in his tirade of exposition, does he tell them where everyone is now? So I own this bookshop. Peter Venkman is a professor now, and Winston became a rich man of finance.
Yeah.
To become the true villain of the piece, working in the financial industry.
He's a true bloody villain of the piece. Imagine if you're in finance and someone said, "Do you want to come and help some kids in a small town with some ghosts?" I'm over it, to be honest.
To be fair, though, he's probably most able to, because he's probably got lots of good holiday and benefits. Probably afford to take a couple of days off, can't he?
There we go. He's like, I just want to get that annual leave approved, and I'll be there.
Can't be like Ray, self-employed. If he ain't working that shop, then he ain't doing anything.
Shut the shop. Go ahead.
Can't. Yeah.
So
yeah.
So the new team, Trevor, Phoebe, Lucky, and Podcast, go to the temple, which is inside this mine. So essentially, like in terms of the backstory for Somerville, there was like a Gozerian cultist called Ivo Shandor, who like built this temple.
Designed everything. Mine, right? Designed the whole town.
Designed the whole bloody town. It's like a mining operation as well. So might be doing a bit of mining, but I think he's also doing a bit of mining for supernatural deities, as well. You got to mix it up, sometimes.
He's built a lovely temple, and when the guys go in there, they can see it's all set up for everyone's mate Gozer.
Yeah, so there's a big sort of statue of Gozer. Ivo Shandor is there, I guess, like what? Perfectly preserved, or like
he's in like a Lenin glass coffin, isn't he?
So what are we supposed? Is he dead? But
he's Snow White in it. So basically, like if a handsome prince ever comes and give him a kiss, then he can wake up again.
Why is that not explained? Does that technology exist in this world?
It would appear if you're in a glass coffin and you just live forever, but you're kind of there forever. But then every so often, bit like acid reflux, the ghost dimension kind of flares up down in the pits of oblivion, and they learn that Egon has set up like basically a bit like classic horror movie Congo. He set up like a motion detector gun turret thing with the other proton packs. And nice. When the ghosts come welling up, the PKE meters work as a thing, and they just blast them back down again. Essentially. To keep them bay. And Ivo Shandor kind of comes to life a little bit when the ghosts are coming up.
Yeah.
So they're kind of holding them off.
We understand that's what the explosion's been that's been detected by Gary Gruberson as well. It's this event essentially. All of the proton packs firing, trying to keep the ghost. It's like they look like alphabet spaghetti coming out.
Yeah,
the ghost.
Because you know what alphabet spaghetti would do if it was all ghosts. What letter would they mostly use?
Oh,
just B and a ton of O's.
Whoa!
So they're coming up there, but unfortunately, after the date and the arrest the previous night, Paul Rudd had to nip to Walmart to get some ice cream, didn't he? and this is where you encounter
some. You know how to live though. Like I enjoyed this. Because I enjoy these late trips to like supermarkets when you're going in there only for a treat. You've got a spring in your step. You're walking around. You look if it gets ice cream. Doesn't he get like some sort of frosting as well?
Yeah, blue velvet. The opposite of last week's film, Crimson Peak. He wants to make sure he doesn't Crimson Peak it. You get some blue velvet cake topping. Blue velvet. And some lovely Baskin Robbins, 31 varieties.
Very nice. Can't get that in this country, can we?
Yeah, you can get Baskin Robbins here. Not everywhere, not as frequently as Ben and Jerry's, and I don't think they do it in supermarkets, but you'll find a Baskin Robbins. But you know what they don't have? I'll tell you what, Ben, bearing in mind that Korean culture is gaining a lot of traction over here these days, the best thing to come out of South Korea ever, without exception, shooting star flavored ice cream. My goodness.
Mother of God.
It is the flavor of, like, I imagine that the food of the gods, ambrosia, tastes like shooting star ice cream. It has popping candy in it. It has a swirl of raspberry sauce, but its core flavor is that most wonderful of flavors in the world, blue.
Blue. Bubblegum.
Blue. No, not bubblegum. Blue.
Blue flavor. Oh wow.
I was going to say lovely blue candy. Raspberry, popping candy. That's like the shooting star element to it. A raspberry swirl.
Wait, Baskin Robbins do it as well.
It's a Baskin Robbins flavor, but I've never found it in a Baskin Robbins in this country. I've only encountered it in Korea. And when we went back there a couple of years ago, it's the first thing I had.
Lovely. Just made a beeline for it. Baskin Robbins flying soda. It looks like a blue flavored soda with a scoop of that ice cream on top of it. Oh, like a what's it called? Coke float.
But I love a Coke float, but imagine that with shooting star ice cream. Thinking of these terrible excesses, we used to go and get you could buy the pint or the big box with 4 flavors in it of Baskin Robbins when we lived in Cheonan, and I used to get shooting star, rainbow sherbet, all the wonderful flavors, and they'd give you dry ice to take it home with, so it would go things. Oh, wow. And they have those guidances that say don't put dry ice in a sealed container because it'll explode. We sealed it in a bottle and left it on the roof of our apartment building. It went off so loud that it set off a load of car alarms. But wow. Yeah, it exploded pretty badly. Baskin Robbins.
No one died.
No, everyone was fine. For any American listeners we have, where Baskin Robbins is more common, if you can get shooting star ice cream over there, please do let me know.
Yeah.
Because I've got a real hankering for it, having brought it up. But anyway, Paul Rudd, Gary has had the same hankering. So he's gone, and they sell at the supermarket there. But his shopping expedition is rudely interrupted when who should turn up but Marshmallow Man.
What? Marshmallow Man. Why are they there?
I guess because Gozer's on the up and up with all of this that's going on.
I mean, it doesn't really make sense, does it? I can kind of understand. All right, so Gozer, when Gozer was in New York in the 1984, and it was Ray who thought about the Marshmallow Man.
Yeah, Ray chose the form of the Marshmallow Man, so I guess commitment to a bit, I guess.
Yeah, so and Gozer's remembered somehow that form, but can only create it in small form for some reason in this particular Walmart.
Maybe because their power is not at its apex. All they can do is just use existing marshmallow. Or maybe we don't know this is true. Maybe in 1984 New York, there happened to be a very large marshmallow. Maybe Heston was in town and he was building a big one. And that's why it was big.
Yeah, possibly. We'll never ever know. This out of all of the bits. Oh shit! This out of all of the bits in this movie, like the bits that felt like they were the greatest hits moments, this felt like the most unnecessary for me. I was like, all right, okay. I mean, yeah, we can understand like these little dudes, like for the kids in the audience, they'll enjoy it. For the Ghostbusters fans, they'll enjoy it. It's a tiny version. It'll sell toys. and other
I
bits,
reckon
whatever.
marketing synergies doing this with your hands as well, Ben. I reckon you could make edible versions of them in all good supermarkets now.
Yeah, that does sound pretty good.
I'd eat one. If I saw a little marshmallow man like that, I'd eat him right up.
They seem to be happy to be eaten as well because they're like making s'mores out
Oh,
of
they
themselves.
love being brutally killed,
Yeah.
melted away, throwing themselves into a barbecue, sort of marching across the grill and sort of oozing through, burning themselves up. They can't get enough.
So obviously they're not really attacking Paul Rudd, are they? But they're kind of like just all over him.
They're just kind of doing like gremlin level menacing, aren't they?
Yeah, slight. Just what's the word? Slight annoyance.
Yeah, they'll trip you, or they'll crash a rumba into your shin, or
ow.
Yeah, because one of them, when he's first poking at him, he like bites his finger. Would something made of marshmallow hurt if it bit you?
Yeah, I don't think so. Unless, what's going on in there? What's going on in that mouth? Do they look like they got teeth of any sort?
Oh man, you could throw one against the wall so hard it'd be tossing a flump.
So Gary like rounds a corner and sees someone eating a big bag of kibble. Not someone, something, and it's one of the dog ghosties. Now I love that these dog ghosties have got like names, and I always
one of them is Zool. The one that possesses someone else is Zool, but I don't know what the other one's called.
The other one's called Vince Clortho, the Keymaster. And
Zool, Vince Clortho. I think you told me that a couple of weeks ago, actually.
I always enjoyed that in the first movie. Like, there's a couple of things I enjoy a lot about the first movie, but for some reason that always tickled me. The fact that one of them's called Vince Clortho, because Vince Clortho is the one who possesses Rick Moranis.
When do they mention that in the name, that its name is Vince Clortho? Is that just a bit of wonderful trivia that you know?
They do mention in the first movie, yeah, because I think Rick Moranis says, "I'm Vince Clortho, the Keymaster," something like that. I'm looking for Zool, the gatekeeper. So yeah, it's pretty funny. So the dog chases Paul Rudd, Gary, through Walmart. Walmart's getting trashed. He escapes as soon as he gets into his car, which has got no windscreen, by the way.
It got blasted out earlier.
Because it got blasted out. Vince Clortho lands on the car.
Always use his full name.
Vince Clortho lands on the car and he goes, "I'm Vince Clortho," and then it cuts away. So I think we kind of know what's happening.
What's happening here? Yeah.
And pretty much at the same time, or sometimes.
It's like in the same evening. So basically, the kids are all off investigating the temple, and then these things happen at the same time. Roughly the same time. Gary's being cut by Vince Clortho, and Callie, she finally encounters her dad's ghost, and he leads her down into the basement where she sees that her dad did care about her all along, because he's been keeping loads of pictures of her. He was doing this important work, as we found, to protect us all, the whole world, from Goza's return when no one believed him. And she's touched by this moment, but it's cut abruptly short when Zool, not the ninja from the Dimension, Atari and Amiga hero of the 16-bit era.
Oh, wow.
But Zool with U's, not O's, comes and gets her in the basement.
Did Egon's ghost not know that Zool was knocking about in there? I guess he was distracted trying to make amends in some way.
Yeah, but yeah, he couldn't do anything about it. So she gets Zooled. The kids get back and have to explain everything the next morning. And, this is, the Leo pointing at the screen bit where he goes, "Oh, hey, Mom." How's it going? "No, there is no Mom, only me, Zool."
Yeah. I don't know. This felt a bit heavy-handed to me, this sort of stuff, where it was like, okay, all the way down to, I know we don't get it immediately, but all the way down to the fact that she ends up in the same dress that Sigourney Weaver wore in Ghostbusters, like the sort of flowing gold number. Yeah, I don't know. It just felt a bit. I feel like genuinely, when Sigourney Weaver was possessed by Zool, it was scary. Everything from like the heavy breathing, like the almost like panting, to the voice. The fact that the voice didn't seem to quite be coming out of her. Her teeth were like clenched, and she was like there is no data, only Zool. Whereas this felt a bit more like, I don't know, designed to seem a bit more terrifying, but didn't quite hit the mark for me.
Yeah, I mean, and it could come down to it that Sigourney Weaver is one of the finest actors, and that was like in their prime. It could just be that delivery of the time, or maybe we were less attuned to things like ADR and stuff as at the time.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, Carrie Coon is great in this film, but yeah, I wasn't. But then again, they do kind of come across well as Zool and Vince Clortho, because obviously Vince Clortho's a bit ditzy, a bit silly, bloody Rip Moranis a bit, and Zool's a bit like sexy. I guess that's like what's going on.
Yeah, and they quickly establish as Callie. There is no Callie, of course, only Zool. After Zool chips off out the window and basically runs off, the other guys know that from the prophecy and everything else that they've learned, that what they have to do is get themselves to Bone Town, and if they succeed in doing that, then Gozer is going to be back with a vengeance. So they need to try and catch them before that happens. They go and formulate a plan.
So we do also see possessed Gary Gruberson destroying the Egon's sort of set up to keep all the ghosties at bay with all his proton packs. He's just like ripping them down. Well, I think he uses one of them to destroy all the rest.
Yeah.
Blooming out.
Yeah, he does. And is that perhaps how Zool gets out to possess Callie when he disables that?
Yeah.
Yeah. The sequencing is a bit lost because I can't make notes in a cinema without being that bloody person with their phones out. Ridley Scott would be furious. He saw you looking at your phone.
He'd just kill you. He'd just straight up murder you.
I mean, how would he feel if he saw you looking at your phone in a Marvel film, which he allegedly doesn't like? Would he be glad? Would one cancel out the other?
I think, one might cancel out the other.
These are boring. They're boring, aren't they? Yeah.
Good man. Bored, are you? Yeah. Why don't you watch one of my films on your phone? No, don't watch it on your phone. No, don't. It was never meant to be ruled like that. Yeah.
But yeah. So he... So it's destroyed anyway. They're both possessed and they execute their plan to get their stuff back. This is a cool scene. I liked this one where they...
Yeah.
It kind of made it... It was a good reason why Muncher was in it and why he ate metal. It all was useful.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that was good. Yeah.
So you go.
So they let Muncher out of the trap in order for him to eat the metal gate to get all the stuff out, didn't they?
Yeah, they did. So they can't get through the lock. The lock is unpickable. They use a ghost to eat it, and then they can put their plan into action. And their plan is for I like Ivo Shandor when he first comes out, because the temple opens up. Those two have combined their abilities and they turn back into dogs, having sexed it up. They then turn into dogs again. The temple all comes out. Ivo Shandor comes up.
The effect of them turning into dogs looked good because it looked pretty much the same as the effect. Well, not there was no rotoscoping, I don't think, but it was a very similar effect to when in the original, where they kind of like shake like that, arms going everywhere, and then they just bend down, turn into dogs. And there was some practical effects with the dogs up close, right?
Yeah, there must have been some practical element to it because they seem to have too much weight to them to be purely CG affairs.
And I like that. That looked good.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was going to mention my problem with this. I think I'll leave that to the end.
All right, are you sure? If you want to say your problem, Ben, you can air it now.
Okay, I'll say it now. I just kind of think, like, I know Gozer, the Gozerian, and all of that stuff as a big threat is very key to the mythology of Ghostbusters, and it's like the big threat, isn't it? I just kind of feel like it would have worked just as well with something new. Something new is like Egon's heard about something even more terrifying than Gozer the Gozerian coming back. Something that he needs to go somewhere and try and stop it coming out of a It could have been anything else. They could have added to the mythology, added something new, rather than essentially what I feel like it started to do at this point in the film was just feel like it was hitting the same beats as the original Ghostbusters. Like we all knew what was going to happen. They're possessed. Okay. Oh, now this is going to happen. Now Ghost is going to come out. Essentially the same as the original. And really, when you think about it, not jumping ahead too far, but they did beat Gozer with minimal. It wasn't much more effort than essentially the first movie. I just felt like if there was a new threat, some new mythology, a new big bad, they could have had
a new method, right?
They could have had them be utterly, utterly defeated, and then the arrival of those Ghostbusters, the original Ghostbusters, could have felt so much better. And you know what? I love the recreated lines. Like one of my favorite lines in the whole of the first movie is "aim for the flat top." The fact that we got like a slight
flat
variation,
top, yeah,
a slight variation on that line was great. This is the thing. I like the greatest hit stuff. I like it, but I think on reflection, I almost feel a little bit like shortchanged.
All right.
If that makes sense.
I see what you mean. Like you wanted something that you haven't seen before.
Maybe because I enjoy the cartoons as well, right? So the real Ghostbusters cartoon's amazing, and there's so much cool stuff in that.
That Pumpkin King, the boss of all the ghosts, he turns up, doesn't he?
Pumpkin King, just loads of mad shit. There's loads of mad shit in it, and you know when they did a sort of all the ghosts turning up in Somerville sort of thing, similar to the first movie where
the miner is there in the in the cafe and things like that, right?
I felt kind of shortchanged by that. I was a bit like I wanted to see. We saw like 2 or 3 different ghosts, yeah, but that moment, like when bloody Titanic turns up in it,
and that lady's fur coat has come alive, and
yeah, just stuff like that. Stuff that's like, what? Oh my god, can't believe this. Kind of just felt like, okay, there's just some variations of Muncher knocking about. Oh, and the miner dude. That's kind of it. It just felt like, yeah. As I said, in the moment while I was watching it, I was loving it. I was enjoying it. But as I said, on reflection, it felt a bit like as it got to this point in the film, it started to go, right, let's just throw everything into this big melting pot. And
throw it in there at the wall, and you get all of your memories. Do you think you're looking at it more harshly now because you feel like you've been tricked? So at the cinema, you were like, yeah,
oh my god.
You got that boy on the back of that dragon at the end of Never Ending Story. That's how happy you were. And then you've come out and gone, bloody tricked by nostalgia, and I feel sick.
I'm bloody tricked again. I mean, films do that to me all the time. I get tricked by nostalgia. I get hyped for films and let down. Just, yeah. I've been burnt too many times, but you know.
It's an emotional roller coaster.
It is an emotional roller coaster, definitely, yeah.
But plot-wise, so Gozer is back out. Ivo Shandor's there saying, "Oh, I built this temple for you." She just rips him in half like a phone book.
Yeah, she just rips him in half like a phone book. And I mean, again, sorry, I don't want to be too. There was something so creepy about Gozer, right? In the original movie, so creepy, like the voice, the look. And I mean, this you could quite clearly tell it was Olivia Wilde. And
Olivia Wilde with like Grace Jones's haircut from the 80s.
Yeah, and I mean, it's still cool, you know. I thought of everything, but I didn't. There's something about the way she was portrayed in the first movie where I just felt like she's so otherworldly and strange, like that is creepy or which capable of anything. Whereas this one, there was almost like a bit. It was almost played for laughs in a way when Phoebe was trying to distract her by just telling her jokes, and she was like tilting her head.
Do you remember her joke?
Oh God, there's a few, wasn't there?
I remember the one about not trusting atoms because they make up everything. Quite liked her jokes; they were good.
We all like that one.
Some good science. Yeah, so she pisses her off with some jokes for a second, but that's just enough time while she's distracted, basically, for Podcast to pilot the remote control trap underneath Zool and slurp him right off. Slurps him off into the trap, and they get their mom back. Trevor's got the car ready, So they've literally parked their car next to a god silently, and then they quickly
do an electric car?
Do a 3-point to Prius, the silent killer, and then they blitz it off, and they're on the way back. They know that Egon's farm was actually a massive trap in itself. They've got the capacitors in there, and the whole idea was that they're going to trap Gozer. That's the thing that will eliminate the threat. So they rush back. They rush back. Vince is in pursuit, and they're shooting him with the beams to get back. Again, just a nice pacey action sequence. And this is probably something that you couldn't create to this level, even in the originals now, because obviously technology allows us to do very fast action sequences where you can still see what's going on and so on. So it's a good, impactful scene. And then we get back to the house, and this is where we have our final showdown, right? So they're holding them off. The whole idea is that they're going to set off the traps, and we sort of replicate what Egon did at the beginning. We come along, but unfortunately there's not enough power to set the traps off, and everyone is a little bit nadgered. So Lucky, the dog, Zool doesn't manage to possess the mom again. It gets Lucky instead, so now she is a dog beast. Gozer turns up again and goes, "Oh, look, I've had enough of you, mate. I'm gonna do you guys in good and proper this time, once and for all." And the guys are kind of stuck. So Phoebe zaps Gozer in the first instance, but basically it all comes apart because Marshmallow Man are getting podcasts, so he can't help. So the podcast and Trevor are going to work together, but they're both getting like their proton pack isn't working, and the Marshmallow Men are basically taking those guys out of the equation. Lucky gets got by Zool and turned into a dog, and it's all looking a bit lost when who should turn up but Chekhov's Ghostbusters.
Chekhov's bloody Ghostbusters. And I did like that the first line was about a flat top, right?
It was like, "Hey, flat top," and then we also get the callback to the original Ghostbusters. Where
why is her hair like that?
It's just a style in ancient Samaria.
That's what I was thinking, because it's very 80s, that style. I just thought it was a bit.
It's come back around in the ghost dimension.
Yeah.
I also love the callback to old Ray jokes where, in the first one, if someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
Oh yeah, lovely.
And it's like, "Are you a god?" And he goes, "Yes."
Yeah, I actually am. You're correct.
I'm the best one, in fact. And the guys come and they do their fighting. They cross the streams again, but Gozer starts uncrossing them because learned a few more tricks.
Considering crossing the streams was like supposed to be such a big deal, they're crossing the streams willy-nilly.
Yeah.
They don't even talk about it. They just immediately cross the streams.
That's the first play. Cross them.
Get those streams crossed.
So they do that, but then she's tossing them around. It's not looking good for them, and then we're kind of left where everyone's defeated. She's about to finish them all off, but then she gets zapped in the back, and it's Phoebe, kind of in like a last stand mode. And she is holding her ground better than anyone else has managed to, because she believes in herself, I guess. That's the thing.
She's shit up.
Gozer goes to fire a beam back, and then again, don't pretend. Like, it'd be foolish for me to pretend. I'm not a boy that grew up in the era I grew up in, Ben, without having seen some Dragon Ball Z. That's what they do here. This is almost the exact point where they're having like an energy beam fight off, where Phoebe's firing the beam, and then in this analogy, Gozer is Cell, and she's firing like the beam back, and then much like in the aforementioned anime that was also written in the 80s, I guess, originally. The ghost of Egon is back, and he's kind of holding Phoebe's hand steady and giving it the energy.
Yeah.
And then everyone comes back together. What did you feel about the return of Harold Ramis in CG
Now,
form?
this is weird, right? Because I remember when this film was announced, actually, I think after the first trailer, I remember seeing something on YouTube, someone on YouTube talking about the trailer. Just some movie YouTuber. I think it might be like Half in the Bag. You ever watch that? Half in the Bag.
No.
I think I don't watch it very much, but I've seen it occasionally. They just talk about various movies, but I remember them talking about it and saying like, if there's a moment, they pretty much called this like word for word, or moment for moment. They said like, if there's a moment where Egon's ghost turns up and kind of like reconciles with his daughter, in some way. I mean, I'm sure they wouldn't have included it if it wasn't like given the thumbs up by Harold Ramis's family, and they wouldn't have done it unless they knew that he would have approved of it. I'm kind of glad he didn't speak, because I think that maybe would have taken it a step too far. However, he did look a bit like a Force ghost. He looked like a Jedi who'd been Jedi'd, who died on the job.
Jed died.
Jed died. I think it would have worked just as well if we just saw a hand.
Yeah.
I think it would have had just as much impact. Now, I also understand that this reconciliation moment of Callie hugging Egon and having that moment, I also feel like that kind of had already happened in a way. She'd already found out that he had been watching her, not watching her, but like monitoring her life and missing her and loving her. Again, we kind of understood that. So it could have had that. And I think that perhaps it was done tastefully enough. I just feel like I was very aware of every second he was on screen. And to me, it felt like too much.
Yeah, I feel like I think a combination of the way it was done, I think not using his voice was a very nice touch. And I also feel like you kind of are okay doing this because of the people that have done it. So obviously he was close with the other people that were in the film. Obviously he was a huge part of writing the original Ghostbusters, and it's the son of the original director that is directing this time as well. So I think with that, with that comes the territory, and I'm making bold assumptions here that he probably knew and was close to those people as well. So it's probably people who are in a better position to say, I think that he would be okay with this, or if to have spoken to his family and said that they would be okay with this.
Yeah.
I also understand that with Ghostbusters in particular, one of the major problems with having a follow-up to it in a lot of cases would be, I think the deal for Ghostbusters 2 gave all, or at least some of those major guys, at very least Bill Murray and Harold Ramis in particular, veto rights over almost anything else that would ever follow.
Sure.
So I think, so obviously it's a series that he was obviously incredibly passionate about and was incredibly invested in telling the right story. So I feel like they would have done this, as well as it being a very carefully designed thing, for it to speak directly to the fans of those films that have an emotional attachment to it. I can see why when I'm seeing people reviewing this saying, "Oh, you know, had a little well up to this. It was very nice," because it's been very carefully designed to give you exactly those feelings, right?
I think on paper, I might have been a bit like, ooh, not so sure about that. But in the cinema, I was a bit more into it. That's not to say I was totally into it. I was a bit dubious, a bit unsure whether I should be fully fully like enjoying the moment, or if
Yeah.
that's the thing. I definitely wasn't like that, because it's weird. Because I understand why he's there, because he gets to not only reconcile with his daughter and sort of meet
His
essentially
grandkids.
meet his grandkids for the first time, but also reconcile with each of the Ghostbusters as well, because they all three of them have a nice line. I think one of them says, "I should have called, miss you, buddy. Sorry, I didn't believe you." You know, it's not overdone from their side of things, but
Mhm.
so yeah, fine. I'm fine with it, I think.
Yeah, I liked it, but yeah, they all meet up. Basically, they are all together. The other guys defeat, so Trevor and Podcast defeat the Marshmallow Men, because Podcast starts tasing them to death, and they all start exploding.
Very nice.
And then they're able to. They all play a part in it essentially. So they've all worked together. Trevor's contribution is that he uses his proton pack not to add to blasting Gozer, but he blasts the transformer towers that give all the traps the energy to light up, and they're able to catch them all.
Move. Yeah, it's a catch 'em all. It's a catch 'em all moment.
Got to catch them all, them ghosts, and they catch them all, and they've done it. Apocalypse averted.
Wow. Very, very nice. Well done, everyone.
Yeah. And then we finish pretty swiftly, right? Like we get to do the goodbyes that you already covered, where they all, with the threat over, they all have like a little one-to-one with Egon. It ends with Callie giving him a hug, and then we go to credits pretty well. It literally goes up, and we have the dedication to
see
Harold
a moment
Ramis.
where it's like a skyline of New York, and it looks like the Ecto one's on its way back there. So I'm assuming just all of the new team of kids, and I guess Callie and Gary as well.
Well, there are two post-credit scenes. So we get there for Harold, and the little send-off to him and a quiet moment, and then we get to see just over the credits as you say, the Ecto one coming up, but then we get two post-credit scenes. Did you stay for these, Ben, or did you chip off?
Only saw one. I saw one. I thought that was it.
Okay, so in the first one, then we see that Peter Venkman, also married to Sigourney Weaver's character. We didn't see Oscar the baby. I'm guessing he shipped him off somewhere.
Yeah.
They're doing the flashcards, and she's electrocuting him for being a dog when he was younger.
Yeah, classic.
And then in the final scene, now do I remember? Even shows the impact of it.
I think it's Winston, right?
Yeah, that's right. So Janine is talking to Winston, and so you've seen him open up the garage and the old firehouse. He must have brought it back. But then you see Janine talking to Winston, saying, "Oh, are you still supporting?" Because, "Oh yeah, I'm lucky because I've worked very hard. All I wanted when I joined the Ghostbusters was a regular job. The guys gave me a good chance. And now I'm in a position where I can do things. So I'm, despite everything else that I've always been over the years, always going to be a bloody Ghostbuster." So I'm guessing he's opening up Ghostbusters in New York again.
Yeah. Wow. Wonderful. Because you can't set the kids to work because child labor rules and all that. So they're not old enough to become officially on the payroll yet. Oh, I guess then Wolfhard's character, so Trevor probably is close to being, but
yeah, a couple of years, but Gary and Callie can do it by then, and they're kind of in the closing scenes before Harold goes up to heaven and waves goodbye to his family. Yeah. He goes, "Oh yeah, we absolutely fucked, didn't we, when we were dogs that time?" She's like, "Yeah, it's all right."
It's all right. I don't remember any of it. Do you? Well, I remember every moment of it, I'm afraid. But
but he jogged my memory. That's what they say. So we assume they're a couple now. Yeah.
Let's try and find.
There you go.
Where I can watch that post-credit sequence. There we go. That's that.
It was a good, and also I guess if you don't manage to catch it anywhere online, although I'm sure it'll be all over YouTube already, I feel like everything that's come out this year will be on streaming very quickly.
Yeah.
I know Shang-Chi's already on Disney Plus, right? I feel like almost everything will be very quickly on home release as soon as it's off the cinema, almost, because you might as well ride your marketing wave while you still can.
Yeah, there we go. That's Ghostbusters Afterlife.
Yeah, it is. In Luke's absence, Ben, I've prepared some name game for you.
Oh, very nice, very exciting.
So obviously in Ghostbusters that we've just witnessed, a new mantle is taken up of the Ghostbusters and we see a new generation coming through. But in these films that sound a little similar to Ghostbusters but have some key differences, some different things are happening. So in this first movie, Ben, that I saw, a family inherits their late grandfather's house, and he's been building a spaceship, but it is powered not by rocket engines, but by engines made of cooked bread, and they propel the teens forward into a more silly lifestyle than they had previously.
Toastbusters.
Well, it's not Busters though, because it's what's powering their new vehicles.
Toast thrusters.
Toast thrusters.
What was the second part?
Their life's just a sillier way of life that they've previously had.
Toast thrusters, laughter life.
It's not laughter. You might not laugh if you find it ludicrous. Not sensible life at all, Ben. Not sensible in the slightest.
Oh God, I'm drawing a blank. Laughter. What is it?
It's Toast Thrusters Afterlife.
Oh dear me.
Wow.
In
this next film, a young family inherit the property of a deceased relative, and they open the kitchen cupboards in there to find one particularly braggadocious hot condiment, always talking about how he works so hard. How he spent all his days just working real hard, real physical labor. This really hot condiment.
A hot condiment that talks about
always bigging himself up. This hot condiment is talking about how he's worked hard all his life.
Jesus Christ. I'm literally sometimes when this happens, you get it straight away. Something's going wrong in my brain. There's nothing firing in there. What kind of hot condiment? Hot sauce?
It's I mean, there are a couple of varieties of it. The hottest one is the English variety, but there's a milder French one as well.
Yeah, so ghost mustard.
It's not ghost. It's
boast
mustard.
Yeah. Boast mustard.
Boast mustard. Yeah, and he's always talking about how he's really worked so hard. He doesn't rest on his laurels. Does Boast mustard?
Boast mustard. He's had a hard life.
Yeah, it's so what's he do? He's not afraid. He's not afraid to. He's worked on building sites all his life. He has a good day of hard work that he does.
Hard labor.
So what kind of life has he had?
Physical one.
Boast mustard, grafter life.
Oh, for fuck's sake. I'm not.
Right.
It's not happening.
Let's have a look here. In this particular case, at Walmart one day, Gary's popped along there, and he's not in the mood for sweets like he was this time when he was buying ice cream. This time, he wants some microwavable type hamburgers that can be piping hot and ready to eat in only 90 seconds in an 800-watt microwave. But they are deceased in these cases. So what product is he buying?
Ghost rustlers.
Ghost rustlers, correct.
Yeah. I mean, they're definitely deceased, even if they've got any animal products in them at all.
Ghost rustlers. The next one is that the ghost, the team, they find the old equipment of Egon and co, and they once again take up the mantle of those people that go around capturing rogue ghosts. But then, just as they go to fight the Gozerian, they're suddenly stopped, and someone says, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! You guys have your turn after this famous X-Men villain and clone of Cable. You've got to wait until he's had to go first."
Clone of Cable is a clone of Cable. I was going to say
Clone
Cyclops.
of Cable or his evil brother that I think did become a host of Apocalypse. This is very niche, Ben, even for
Jesus,
me.
this is incredibly niche.
And
I was going to say Cyclops. But he's his brother, right?
Cyclops is his dad, or at least genetically.
Yeah. Give me another clue. Has he been in a movie?
I guess he is Cockney rhyming. He's part of Cockney rhyming slang. Oh, thank goodness I had to look it up to make sure this guy was a clone of Cable. I would have got emails/tweets, but he is. Thank goodness.
Apples and pears?
No, I'm afraid I might have made that harder. I'll tell you. So they're Ghostbusters, but the people go, whoa, whoa, whoa. After Strife, if you don't mind, Ghostbusters.
Oh, Strife. Oh my, that's incredibly niche. Like, I would have. Yeah, you could have sat me here for an hour, and I may not have quite got there.
And finally, once again, Gary's at the Walmart again, but he's a bit of a food separatist. Is Gary? He wants a huge amount, and absolutely the greatest amount possible is what he wants of this sweet yellow sauce that you can have with his cake.
Most custard.
Most custard. But he wants it after. He wants it not before, but once he's finished his kind of jelly and whipped cream and fruit dessert.
Ghostbusters after Trife.
So yeah, most custard after Trife.
Oh yeah, I forgot about the first bit. I keep forgetting there's two words. Like every time you say it, I'm like, well.
So to summarize, toast thrusters, Afterlife, Boast mustard, Afterlife, Ghost Rustlers, just on its own, Ghostbusters after Strife, and finally, most custard after Trife. Full.
I like it.
And there we go.
I very much
the most
like
obscure name game ever.
I kind of had a similar one before I was trying to think of, which is also started with most custard. That's actually true.
Custard.
I was going to say a recent. It was like a recent widower who was never allowed to eat the ambrosia yellow treat suddenly found himself free and available to eat more. It was something like that. But I think
the most custard after wife.
Yeah.
Guys, do tweet in, especially if you got that Strife one. You'll get 10 X-Men points for getting that one.
When you said Cable, I could only think of Cyclops. So I mean, I guess, yeah.
I mean, if we explain the Summers family tree, we're here for another podcast, Ben. It's already 10 to 11.
Yeah, that would be kind of crazy. But a niche, maybe a bonus episode,
about X-Men family trees. Oh, but time to rate the film, I suppose.
Yeah, you feel free to go ahead if you.
All right, I liked it. As I said at the top, Ben, I think separate this from your memories of the past, even though it does hit some of those greatest hits of the final of the previous movies. The past is a foreign country. If you go into this wanting it to be truly the same as the old ones, you will be disappointed. I found it very charming. I liked the new people that came into it. I think there is a lot of potential for them to do more. As a film, there are some bits that I think you could say as a general if you're trying to critique the movie, is it either too reliant on some of the nostalgia for the old bits, or if you're not so tied into those nostalgia bits, then were some of them completely necessary? Maybe not. But for me, I think I think my very specific memories of Ghostbusters and how much I engaged with it and how much I have a fondness for it means that it hit me in just the right spot. Like, I enjoyed Ghostbusters and I enjoyed being reminded of those things. And I found it quite a charming movie, but I also liked all of the new stuff. So I had a positive time. I would watch another one of these. Wouldn't mind having a go on one of those proton packs. Seems very satisfying. Blasting those beams out of it. So I like this a lot. So I'm going to give it a already adjusted for excitement already, and hoping that will dull down over time. We give it a B plus. Good times had by all.
Very nice. Very, very, very nice. So I think when I first left the cinema, I was buzzing, and I probably would have been about a B plus, I think. I wouldn't take it as high. I wouldn't take it into the realms of the A's because it didn't change me. I think even at the time I knew that third act for me felt incredibly, I don't say incredibly heavy-handed, but in places a bit heavy-handed with the spoon feeding of nostalgia, which is lovely. Do you know what I mean? I enjoy nostalgia. I enjoy
It
the
feels
flavor
nice.
of it. It's delightful. It feels like being wrapped up in a warm, delightful duvet, having your head stroked, and being told, you know what, everything's going to be all right. Remember when you were a kid, when you didn't worry about anything apart from like how many packs of Panini football stickers you were going to get the next day?
A
That's pretty much all you...
delightful blanket made of the past. I got similar feelings when we saw Captain Marvel, you know. So I remember this music from the 90s when we just pretended everything was miserable.
Yeah. And then Blockbuster as well. Very nice.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed that. However, I think I've made my foibles. I've made my problems with some bits of it already. I've made it already clear. So it felt
I saw your tweets. But what are the Ghostbusters of women? Not on my. Yeah, I saw them.
Not on my bloody watch. Great cast of characters. I really loved all of the new characters. I thought they were great, and they had a lot of great dynamics between them. Their relationships were good. I want to see more of this world, definitely. And the first two acts I thought set up a lot really well. It was really well paced. It had its own identity. It was funny, and it was like a really sort of engaging world. I felt like I just wanted to know more. I love this. I mean, the soundtrack is incredibly similar to, is it Elmer? I think it's Elmer Bernstein who did the original. I mean, yeah, all the spooky moments, all of the action moments, all of the comedy moments had similar sort of soundtracks, so it felt like we're in that world. But yeah, the final act felt like a greatest hits at times, felt a bit too much. And even though I enjoyed it to a degree, I do feel, and I already said this, but I do feel tad shortchanged by the fact we didn't get a new threat, or we didn't add to the mythology that already existed with something else, with something new that could really separate it from this movie. Because can you imagine, right, that we got a movie of a new villain or a new threat, they beat that villain, they beat that threat, and then suddenly in the post-credit sequence, we get a little hint towards Gozer the Gozerian coming back. I mean, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Can you imagine how exciting that could have been? Because in the next movie, obviously, it's got to be a new thing. So
yeah,
why not just kind of set it up, do it? I mean, I know they're not going to borrow things from the real Ghostbusters TV show, but there's so much stuff in there.
And what could they do there, Ben? Like, think about it. Like, as you said, shared universes are all the rage these days. What if the baddie in the next one is, I don't know, Mum-Ra the Ever Living?
Oh god, I thought you were just gonna say a 2D animated ghost. That would be fantastic.
Lose your mind.
Yeah, oh my god, I would lose my mind. That sounds fantastic. So yeah, definitely got a few problems. Don't think it was perfect. A nice slice of nostalgia. Nostalgia is essentially like a movie genre now, right? Uh, but I have fun. But I'll go for a B minus because I didn't. I mean, I loved it, but I wasn't totally in love with it.
Because you're bitter about being tricked. You're like, no, tricked by nostalgia.
I'm always being tricked by nostalgia.
Paulie Luke sent over his notes. He said he left feeling a C.
Oh, okay.
That's
I've
from
got you.
Luke.
A C. What? A mid C, a straight up C.
Yeah, he says a mid C, unless, of course, because he does end the sentence with that.
Yeah.
I don't know what he could have just been taken ill and he never finished the sentence. He could have been as that I left feeling clearly that it should have been an A, but he didn't finish that sentence. So we have to assume that he was going to score it a C. So
a straight up C.
We'll quiz him. We'll quiz him on what his feelings were. I suspect that he might have had similar issues to yourself, right?
I mean, it's a good time. It's a great film to watch in the cinema. I felt like it was a great film to watch with my daughter because it really did feel like I was, she was experiencing something like that for the first time, and then
passing the torch to the next generation. Is that what you felt you were doing?
Passing the bloody torch.
And you were turning into a blue light and going into heaven in the end.
I was turned into a Force ghost.
Yeah, you turned into a Force ghost because, well, these are your films now, and I will bid you goodbye.
I'll bid you goodbye. I'll bid you
see you at home.
I'll see you at home. You're driving yourself home. Sorry. Yeah, pretty much it. But yeah, good times. Good times, I think. Enjoyed it.
Yeah.
So I guess, well, that's that for this month. So I guess next month we've already mentioned. I mean, how many times have we done that on the show? Just decided what the next episode is going to be. It's pretty much what we used to do the whole time.
We've done it live, so we in no particular order next month, but possibly next week, as we've talked about it. A bit of Chucky.
I think Child's Play is a good shout. I think obviously we're going to do Resident Evil: Welcome to Raccoon City, so we just need to fill out the rest of the rest of the week, rest of the month. We discussed maybe doing a quiz.
Yeah, you know what? We'll say it because these things will happen if we say them. If we can find worthy opponents, then I will write a quiz before to go out in December.
Okay, let's give that some thought.
We'll get it out and we'll find some other films to fill the void.
Yeah.
Maybe some new stuff, maybe some old stuff. Maybe we'll talk a little bit more about Hell Punchers, Hell Thumpers, if we watch any more of it.
Exactly. And if you're on, because we have got a Patreon, we are going to be doing some more bonus content. We haven't done any for a couple of weeks, but we're going to do a bonus episode where we rank the Halloween
movies. Yeah, I've watched them all. I'm ready to roll.
Yeah, so very exciting. We'll sort that out soon. Don't know if there's any trailers, anything we can react to, but we'll try and get some more bonus content out next month as well.
We're starting to work on a few things. I think the next thing we're going to do is the Halloween one. Then we have maybe a comics thing in the pipeline as well, and maybe as Resident Evil's out, we can drag Luke along on this one with us, Ben. Maybe you and I can do a quick ranking of the Resident Evil games over the years as well.
That would be nice.
Don't need to revisit any of those. They're in my blood. Can do them all.
That sounds lovely.
Can recall them as well as I can recall the Jurassic Park ringtone.
Is it going to have to be all of them or just the main installments numbered?
Maybe we'll do numbered and some bonus entries because I know how much you love Gun Survivor and Ark Thompson.
Oh yes, I do. And you can't miss out Code Veronica either. That would be a treasure.
No, that's an honorary numbered one.
Maybe not. I don't know, Deadly Silence or what's the other Gun Survivor one called?
Deadly Silence is the DS one, isn't it? Like Umbrella Chronicles, the on rails like and ones. So, yeah. But we'll get into that. Don't spoil your order now. We'll get it out there.
It's a great idea. Love it. So so that's that. That's the end.
Yeah, get on the Patreon, guys, if you want to see that. We should have you got the Patreon list, Ben, to thank them all?
I sure do. So thanks for listening. If you enjoyed the show, become a patron over at no, that's wrong. patreon.com/horror hangout. So thank you very much to our loyal patrons at the moment, who include patron by way of hostage. We've taken him as a hostage, Mr. John Crillan, patron against his will, Ben Scaife, Stephen Christopher, Laura Kendrick, Toby Miller, and Pazuzu. Thank you all. Really is nice of you to support the show in such a lovely way. So thank you. Thanks for listening. Thanks to Kovac Kama for our theme music. Thanks to Acast for hosting the show. Please consider giving us a 5-star, well, any rating, but 5-star would be nice. Rating a review on iTunes or anywhere else you can rank podcasts. Head over to the Facebook group Horror Hangout Board of Advisors. Join that. Talk to us. Yeah, that'd be fun. And thank you very much to Andy for being a right horror dude.
Thank you very much, Ben. Always lovely chatting to you about a new movie. And Luke,
good times.
We miss you, my friend. We'll see you soon.
Luke, we miss you. We hope you get over being slimed and you're back with us next week.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll be able to hear your voice again in the future, and you won't have gone into the sky as a Force ghost.
Oh God, I hope he's not lost his voice forever. That would be disappointing.
Yeah, that would be
but you know
very
what?
disappointing.
But you know what, Andy? We'd replace him. So
sorry, we've got 200 episodes of him. We could probably cut together all the words in the future. We'll get him as a soundboard.
Yeah, or we can AI recreate his voice and just have some sort. Yeah, great. All we got to do is get him to say B- every episode. Okay.
Until next time. Oh, bye-bye. In sync. Bye.
Bye.